And if the public needs to go somewhere else to see it, they can go to redondo.org/RBTV, and there's links there for the YouTube, and there's a link there for to register for Zoom. So just to be aware. We just got a notice today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, at least we got a heads up. Before we didn't even get a heads up. So
yeah.
And you might remind us, Eleanor, if you think about it, like 8:30 or quarter or something. Hey, by the way, don't forget. So.
Yeah. So those that are on Granicus, just don't refresh. It should still stay on. So we'll go forward with that. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Eleanor. All right, we'll return from closed session. Could I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Nierenheim?
Here.
Councilmember Lowenstein?
Here.
Councilmember Horvath?
Here.
Councilmember Obaji?
Here.
Councilmember Emdy?
Here.
Mayor Brand?
Here. Thank you. Do we have any announcements from closed session?
We do, Mayor. The council under item F2 directed the city attorney to file legal challenge to the State Water Control Board's extension of their once-through cooling policy for the next 2 years. So that direction was given, and that statement is to be made as an outgrowth.
And just reportable action, it's out of F4, one potential case, because it's
F3, Mike, F3, I think.
Yeah, there's no F4.
Okay, F3, it's the potential cases, not F2, and it was a unanimous vote.
Okay. You say which case, Mike, or?
Yeah, it's against the State Water Board for challenging the recent 2-year extension of the AES power plant through modification of the once-through cooling.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to reconvene to adjourn from closed session.
So moved.
Second. Okay, any objections? So ordered. Now, welcome everybody. It's November 9th, 2021. I'd like to open a regular meeting of the City Council. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Nierenheim?
Here.
Councilmember Lowenstein?
Here.
Councilmember Horvath?
Here.
Councilmember Obaji?
Here.
And Councilmember Emdy?
Here.
Mayor Brand?
Here. Thank you. Let's all rise and salute the flag. Okay, ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry, I forgot to tell everybody to take a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Announcements. We'll go right to announcements. Councilmember Nierenheim.
Thank you, Mayor Brand. Yeah, I've got a couple announcements. First up is my in-person community meeting is this Saturday at Alta Vista Community Center. We'll be having it inside and come on down. The first one back inside that we've had since
because it says it's in progress.
Somebody needs to mute. People are talking.
February or March of 2020, I think it was the last one. March of 2020 was the last time we had an in-person community meeting. So progress moving forward. We'll also be doing an Zoom meeting on Monday night as well. I'll be sending out the link for that as well. Go ahead and sign up for that. Also want to thank Public Works for putting up some flags on the Esplanade. They worked fantastic. Mayor Brand and I both noticed them today. We both took pictures and we both hit up our future city manager, Mike Wazansky, asking him pretty much the same exact time, hey, what's up with these flags? And they look great. And that is for Veterans Day on this Thursday. Come on down to Veterans Park. Mm-hmm. We have a memorial putting on by the usual suspects who did a phenomenal job every single year for Memorial Day and Veterans Day. and it should be fantastic weather. Should be in the upper 70s at the beach down there. Great weather, so come on down. It's another gathering. Please wear your mask. Be cognizant of the fact that there are older people there, and that we want to make sure it's a safe environment for everyone. So other than that, that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's 1 p.m. Thursday, folks. Veterans Day celebration in Veterans Park. Councilmember Lonesy.
Thanks, Mayor Brand. One announcement, that's the next District 2 community meeting for November will be next Monday, 6 to 7:30 p.m. on Zoom. My special guest will be new city manager Mike Witzansky, who will be able to talk a little bit about the direction of the city and answer any questions you might have. To register, you need to go to the District 2 page on the redondo.org website and to register ahead of time, or you can either send me an email or also receive an email from me that I'll be sending out again as a reminder in the next day or two to sign up. So again, Zoom meeting next Monday night, hopefully not coinciding with Councilman Nierenheim's, 6 to 7:30 on Zoom with Mike Witzansky. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Horvath.
Yeah, District 3 community meeting for November is going to slide up a week to this week. It'll be Thursday night from 6 to 7:30 p.m. We're going to be discussing master bicycle plan, the local travel network, and just overall the idea of how do we keep people who want to get around the city using bicycles, multimodal options like scooters, neighborhood electric vehicles and whatnot in a safe manner. And that'll be this Thursday night.
Great. Councilmember Obaji.
Just wanted to thank Public Works. They painted beautiful lines here in District 4 around Perry Park, new parking lines after they paved, and arrows and stop lines. I also want to thank our new our assistant city manager, soon to be city manager, because today, as I was just thinking, gosh, I wish I could talk with Mike Witzansky right before we have this meeting. He gave me a call. As he said that he would call, talk to me before city council meetings on Tuesdays when I had my day blocked off for city business, and really help me get through a lot of the stuff that was on the agenda and understand it, so that I don't have to take up time in council asking questions on a bunch of stuff. So thank you, Mr. Witzansky, for staying true to your word and helping me out.
Okay, Councilmember MD.
Just like Mr. Nierenheim said, that Thursday at 1 p.m., it is put on by the Veteran Task Force. And afterwards is the barbecue from the Elks Lodge. If it's free to first responders and to veterans, and it is $5 for everybody else. See you all there.
Yeah, and present will be the mayor of Ensenada. He's coming up. Ensenada's a sister city of ours. He's coming up with several people from Ensenada to visit us. It's a great gesture, really, on behalf of the mayor of our sister city down in Ensenada. So I think he's newly elected. So it's a great way to start off his term. So we're sister cities with Ensenada and La Paz. La Paz mayor came about 4 years ago. So sounds like I need to make a visit to some of our sister cities. Anyway, so that'll be fun. Veterans Day is always beautiful. The weather's always beautiful. On Veterans Day, Memorial Day, I don't know how they do it. It's always beautiful. And it's always a great time. So come on down 1 o'clock and barbecue. Okay, with that, we'll go into our regular meeting. First step is approval of order of agenda. Anybody want to make any changes or make a motion to approve as is?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Horvath, second by Councilmember Nierenheim. Any objections, anybody? Okay, so ordered. Next up is blue folder items. I think we have a couple blue folder items for tonight, Eleanor.
Yes, we have for N2, which is related to 2020 census and demographic data, an email response from the Census Bureau representative regarding cities concerned with District 3 data. N3, which is related to for voters to approve the implementation of ranked choice voting PowerPoint presentation. For N4, jointly with the county for Home Key Round 2 funding offered by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, CEQA exemption in AB 140 questions and answers. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to admit those to the record?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Horvath, second by Councilmember Lowenstein. Any objections? Okay, so ordered. Next up is our consent calendar. Tonight, there are 8 items on consent. Any council member can pull any item. Any member from the public comment or asked to pull any item. I'll go through the council, see if anybody wants to pull one. Councilmember Nairnheim.
I'm good, thank you, Mayor Brand.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Horvath.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Obaji.
No, thank you.
And Councilmember MD.
No, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to pull item H5 just so staff can explain what the plans are for what was Barney's Beanery, and we're signing a new lease, approving a new lease, and they have plans. So it'd be great, just an informational item to, it's a good news item actually. So are there any comments from the public that would like to comment on any item other than H5?
I see no hands up. And let me just double check here. And no e-comments.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent calendar minus item H5.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Lowenstein, second by Councilmember Horvath. I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Nairnheim.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
Aye.
Councilmember Horvath.
Aye.
Councilmember Obaji.
Aye.
And Councilmember MD.
Aye.
Do you have to read anything, Eleanor?
No, not this time.
Yeah, look at that. Okay, item H5. H5 is just, they finally found someone who wants to move into where Barney's Beanery was and several other establishments. It's been vacant for some time. So I wanted to ask Stephen Proud if he's available, or Mike Watanski, just to explain what the plans are.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. So, as you know, under our master leases that we have, whenever one of our master lessees has a tenant who's about to move into a space, one of our subtenants, or if they want to amend a sublease, we bring it back to you for your consent. In this case, the consent that's before you is a sublease amendment with the lease that the Redondo Landing has with El Torito. El Torito, the parent organization, which is XRG Restaurant Group, has a broad array of different restaurant offerings under their umbrella. Most of them are Mexican themed restaurants like Chevy's, Acapulco, Sol, Solita, El Torito, just kind of a broad range of offerings. And they approached their landlord, Bob Resnick, and asked if they could expand the El Torito footprint, if you will, to encompass the Barney's Beanery space that's been vacant since probably about the middle of the pandemic when they closed up their operation there. The idea behind it is not to expand El Torito itself, but to actually introduce a new restaurant concept that isn't even on their website yet. It's called La Cantina, which is kind of more of a club restaurant, Mexican food type of vibe that would be in that space. Operated independently, run independently. They would look like and function as 2 different restaurants. The only commonality between the properties would be the patio space that's between them they would share between the 2 properties. All of the rent and the economics would still flow through the El Torito sublease since it's an expansion of their premises, but from the outward facing view to the visitor to the pier, they would look like 2 completely separate restaurant operations in that space. So we're thrilled. It's been vacant for a while. They've had it's taken them a little time to find a tenant for that space. It's right at our front door. We hate to have a vacancy right there at the front of the pier. So we're excited to finally have somebody in that space and be able to turn the lights on and be able to offer some opportunities for people to enjoy what may be the greatest view in Redondo Beach out the windows off of that restaurant right there. So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks for that update, Stephen. Any beat on opening day?
I don't have that right now in front of me. And I'm not sure if Bob is on our list here tonight but I can certainly get back to you with that information. I know they move quickly. They sent this to us, within the last 20, 21 days or so and asked us if we could expedite it. So I know they're looking forward to get that underway as quickly as possible.
Great. Yeah. Well, there you go, folks. La Cantina.
La Cantina. Yes.
Really the entrance to our pier, which has been dark for about a year. So it's exciting. Anyway, I'll entertain any comment from the public, Eleanor?
None for this item, nor e-comments.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve item H5.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Lowenstein, second by Councilmember Horvath. I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Narenheim.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
Aye.
Councilmember Horvath.
Aye.
Councilmember Obaji.
Aye.
And Councilmember MD.
Aye.
Okay, you don't have to read anything, right, Eleanor?
Not this one. Oh, thank you, Mayor.
Great. So that's our consent calendar. Next step is public participation on non-agenda items. This is the opportunity for the public to speak about anything that is not already on the agenda. Everyone has 3 minutes. So whatever you'd like to speak about.
Okay, so the first one is Heidi Swan.
Great. Hi, Heidi.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Recently, one of the very first lawsuits against one of the biggest marijuana companies happened. A 51-year-old Idaho resident, Jason Crawford, purchased bottles of CBD. And for those of you who don't know what CBD is, it's a non-psychoactive component in marijuana. So he bought some CBD from a legal pot shop in Oregon to treat his back pain. And he started taking his product, and he said that he quickly felt himself slipping from reality. He thought that he was having a stroke or a seizure, and his heart rate was going like 150 beats a minute for 3 or 4 hours. And his arms and legs were shaking, and he couldn't tell if he was talking or if people were talking to him. So the next day, he took a couple drops while he was driving. And then all of a sudden, he saw a car coming toward him on the highway, and he became confused as to which lane he was supposed to be in. And then finally, he pulled over and he let his friend drive him. And they went to the emergency room in Boise. And once there, they underwent tests, and they discovered that he had THC in his system. And later, he found out that the Oregon manufacturers had mixed up the products, and Curaleaf admits to this wholly, and there's several other lawsuits going against them. And so because of this, Crawford is suing. He's saying he required immediate medical treatment and experienced harm and inability to drive a motor vehicle, unwanted anxiety, acute psychosis, discomfort, distress, and interference with life activities. And for 3 weeks after that, Crawford suffered night terrors and other things. So these lawsuits show that a legal market does not guarantee a properly labeled product. Curaleaf was sued before for mislabeling. So imagine an 18-year-old high school student who can't buy a beer or cigarettes, but can get a medical card for practically any reason, and he'd be able to legally purchase these products that can cause this kind of harm. This is not what we voted for. We should protect our kids. We should have guardrails up. We should keep the ban in the South Bay.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. All right, anybody else, Eleanor?
Yes, the next one is Edie Donna.
Go ahead, Edie. You have
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
there we go.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to comment after Heidi on the pot shops that you plan on opening in North Redondo and South Redondo. I spoke at our last council meeting in District 3, Horvath's district, and I strongly oppose the pot shops. And I really wish that you would move forward in banning the existence of the pot shops in our beach city communities. One of the reasons would be, and I don't have a problem with responsible adults buying their cannabis, but the teen children and preteen children are being targeted. And we already know it's an issue, and it starts in middle school. You can visit either the two middle schools, Adams and Paris, they already are speaking to the children about the effects of THC. But if you think that your child will not be targeted and will not use, you are living in la la land. And Christian Horvath, you commented that you speak to your children. I speak to my children. I know other parents that speak to their children. I'm a little insulted by that because we can speak until we're blue in the face. Your child's going to do what they're going to do. And if it's easily available to them and it's in Redondo Beach, they will try it. And we already know, and if you don't know, I can send you article upon article on the THC concentrates and the effects on the teenage brain. It is causing mental health problems for children. Long-term effects can really affect their future. And we all want to see our children have a positive, productive future. So I took insult to that. I dealt with my teenage son trying THC and a 14-year-old friend dealing with this stuff in the Redondo Beach area. So I would strongly suggest that you guys ban this from Redondo Beach. Please do not put the pot shops here. In addition to that, there are many other social issues that follow, such as higher crimes, theft, more serious crimes, not only to mention the smell of pot around the community. And I mean, I can go on with the list. I think that everyone understands what I'm aiming at. So please support banning, putting the pot shops in Redondo Beach. Please preserve the beach cities. The reason why we live here is not only is it a beautiful community, but it's a safe community within LA County. And I think everyone on this panel would agree that you chose to live in Redondo Beach to raise your children in a safe, loving, beautiful community in Southern California.
Time.
Okay, thank you, Edie, and thank you, Heidi. We are not commenting because we don't have opinions. We're not commenting because it's non-agenda items and we're not allowed to comment, just so you know. But we discussed it at length and we will be discussing it more at length. And then we can comment on this issue. So any more, Eleanor?
Well, I have Wayne Craig, who has also signed up for Jay, so I'll ask him if he's okay. Wayne Craig.
Hello there. I guess I'm sorry, technical difficulties got connected. I'm Wayne Craig, a resident of District 1 and Redondo Beach native. I'm calling to talk about an issue that I saw posted last week on November 4th, and that has to do with the new owners of the King Harbor Marina that have just announced that they're no longer allowing liveaboards and permanent residents in the harbor, and that they have 6 months to basically move. This unfortunate news came with a heavy heart for many longtime residents of the marina, many of whom are older and have very low incomes. Now, since the Ginsburg family took it over in 2020, there has some changes have been happening, but it hasn't really been really quickly. They were supposed to add digital parking meters, and apparently there's also been a layoffs of several staff members. And I think we can all agree eliminating liveaboards is probably not the best thing to do. From what I understand, there's probably close to 100 people that live liveaboards in the harbor. I'm not sure if that's an official number, but I think it's something we should probably follow up with and see, first of all, if this is something we really should be doing. And secondly, what kind of legal ramifications could be involved, because I'm not sure if the purchase of the lease gives them that authority to completely eliminate liveaboards. Anyway, I just wanted to bring it to the attention of the council for further follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're well aware.
Okay, and we have one e-comment. Vicki, would you like to read the e-comment?
Thank you. The first comment is actually we have one other one just to come in, so we have two. The first one is from Alisa Beely. I am writing to express my sincere concern regarding the removal of the 2 planning commissioners and the attempted removal of 2 public art commissioners at the second city council meeting. Commissioners Toporo and Ong have served the city honorably for many years. They did not deserve to be removed, nor do they deserve the manner in which it was handled in the middle of the night. Saying that Toporo and Ong were not in lockstep with the community is simply untrue when there are many residents in this community who agreed with them. Referencing prior votes related to housing on the AES site as an indication for how residents feel about the recent housing plan is misleading. The public has never had the opportunity to vote on potential housing on the AES site in the context of the required 2,400 new units. True leaders encourage lively debate and opposing viewpoints. You're doing the opposite. By removing 2 commissioners who you disagree with, you're setting a terrible precedent, and many residents are justifiably concerned. There are good, qualified people in our community who would love to serve the city of Redondo Beach, but they will not raise their hands now because they are concerned about repercussions from the current council majority and the mayor. I think that's really sad. Please understand that our city is a vibrant community of people from various backgrounds with many various viewpoints. All of our opinions matter. Stop trying to stifle our voices by surrounding yourselves exclusively with voices that agree with you. Thank you. The next comment is submitted by Leslie Campeggi. Regarding commission appointments, for 4 years, the former council blocked many of Mayor Brand's commission appointments. For Councilmember Horvath to cry foul and cite he wouldn't set a precedent to remove commissioners is disingenuous. It was he, Councilmember MD, and former Council District 4, Councilmember Grand, who set the precedent to block the mayor's commission appointments in the first place. Were it not for their unprecedented votes to block these appointments, this council would not be in a position to remove any commissioner. What Mr. Horvath and Ms. MD also failed to mention is Mayor Brand is not the first mayor to remove a commissioner or reassign them to another commission. They just don't like that the new majority council is resident-centric, and their former stranglehold council voting bloc has been dismantled by the voters of Redondo. Regardless, most cities have policies in place for removal of commissioners. It was long past time for Redondo Beach to adopt a policy to finally allow for the same. Perhaps it's also time to limit the number of commissions or total years a resident can serve on city commissions. Last week, one of the 2 commissioners the council removed has actually served on 8 different city commissions consecutively for 28 years. 28 straight years of being a commissioner on a city commission, while so many others have applied and been turned down. Her desire to serve her city is admirable and appreciated, but should not trump the desires of other vibrant, capable citizens from diverse backgrounds who wish to be afforded the same opportunity. That concludes comments on non-agenda items.
Okay, thank you, Vicki. Well, with that.
Oh, wait a minute. We have one here. Sarah, let's see. Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So my name is Sarah Wolk, and I'm calling in about ranked choice voting and star voting.
Oh, that's on the agenda. Sarah, you can stick around and speak on the agenda in 3.
Do you know what time that'll be? I actually have another meeting I'm supposed to be in.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. It's probably, I'll just make an outside guess, say it's an hour and a half away. It could be more, could be less.
Okay.
You'll see it on the screen right here in the top left or wherever it is on your that we're on that agenda item. And 3.
Thank you.
That's just a guess, Sarah. Don't hold me to it. It's difficult to tell. Okay. Is that all the non-agenda item?
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Next up is item N1, discussion of possible action regarding the annual report from the Redondo Beach Travel and Tourism Board for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Stephen.
Good morning, Mayor, or good morning, evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I wanted to just provide a few brief opening remarks on this particular agenda topic, and then I will be turning it over to the subject matter experts in this. Just by way of background, in August of 2018, the City Council approved the formation of the Redondo Beach Tourism Marketing District, and the district was formed to serve as a marketing arm and to create a dedicated revenue source to market Redondo Beach as a tourist meeting and event destination. An organization called the Redondo Beach Travel and Tourism is the entity that administers the district and handles all of the marketing activities associated with that district. And tonight we have representatives from the district to speak with you on their activities. As part of the formation process of the district, there was a management plan that was created, and that management plan requires that the district provide you with an annual report within 90 days of September 1st for each year during the initial 5-year term of the district. And the intent of this document is to talk about the marketing activities that have taken place previously in the past year, and then to be forward-looking in terms of the activities that the the district will be undertaking on a go-forward basis. So with that, what I would like to do is turn this over to Rebecca Elder from the Portofino Hotel. She'll give you some opening remarks and then turn it over subsequently to the entity that's been assisting with the marketing effort. So if we could activate Rebecca's microphone, I think she's the video camera. I think she's next up to take you through this. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having us.
Good evening, Rebecca. Good to see you.
Good to see you all too. Mr. Obaji, did you have a question? I think your hand's up.
Oh, no, I just for afterwards, I was going to ask a question.
Oh, okay. Great.
He wants to be first.
That's it. But.
Okay, so thank you for your time today and for the brief overview. As a one thing, and forgive me if it was already mentioned, that the funds for Redondo Beach tourism come from overnight hotel guests. It's a 1% assessment that is paid to the city of Redondo, and then those funds are remitted to Redondo Beach tourism. So we'll take you through our 2021-2020 year-end financials. So if I can get the next slide, please. There we go. So we run on a fiscal year at Redondo Beach Tourism. So that's from August to September. So here you have our 2020-2021 year-end financials. We ended the year with a total budget of $925,000. And our collections, which was the assessment that was remitted from hotel guests, equaled $500,000. The carryover, which was funds from prior years, was $361,000. And the delayed remittance, so earnings that happened within the 2020 fiscal year, but were actually paid a little bit later, equated to $63,000. So as everyone's aware, and every business has been hit by the pandemic, so has hospitality. So it was a challenge when we came to the 2020-2021 budget to try to understand what hospitality was going to look like and what the demand for hotels would be. We anticipated a budget of $375,000 the last time we stood up here with council, and we were pleased to see that the demand actually exceeded what we had anticipated. So that's where you see the collections at $500,000. We did reallocate funds from our contingency and reserve towards some of the summer marketing spend as we saw that demand return. And that delayed remittance that you see in the third column there was from July and August of 2020. So if we move forward, I can give you our estimates. 2021-2022 budget. So looking at, I think we need to go up one more slide, please, Daniel. There we go. Nope, maybe I was wrong. There we go. Sorry about that. So the 2021-22 budget, we anticipate our collections at $625,000. The carryover from prior year will be $374,000. The delayed remittance, which is from October 2021 and is anticipated, was from August 2021 and paid in October, is $50,000. So the total budget will be $1,049,000. Just a quick note on the carryover, we can allocate those funds, as you see, towards sales and marketing. We've been cautious and judicious with our use of funds through the pandemic, as we've seen several different waves of activity. And so we've wanted to ensure that we're spending the money to get the best return on investment and setting ourselves up for future. So to that end, I'd like to share a little bit of market data about the recovery and how it looks for hospitality. So one of the reports that many of the hoteliers use is called STAR, and it's essentially a way to benchmark our performance against other hotels. And the main factor that we use is Revpar, which is revenue per available room. So this allows hotels to compare a 400-room property to a 100-room property to get a baseline and understand if you're getting your fair share of business that's coming into a given area. So what you see here is for Los Angeles County, a change in Revpar. So
I'm sorry, Rebecca, can you please explain Revpar again?
Sure. So Revpar is the revenue per available room of a hotel. So if you had a small hotel, you may run 90% occupancy at a $100 rate. but that occupancy is 90% of a 100-room hotel is very different from 90% of a 400-room hotel. So if you normalize the revenue over the number of available units, it gives you a baseline to be able to compare like product. So you take the size out of the equation when you assign it to available rooms.
What does 100% Revpar mean then, if you had that?
100% Revpar would mean that you're achieving 100% of your competitive set. So let's say Portofino, for example, was at $90 Revpar and Crown Plaza was at $90 Revpar. They would be at 100%. They're achieving the same that I am. If they were less, if they were at 90%, then they're achieving 90% of what I achieve.
Okay, thank you.
However, the metrics for hotels are not one-to-one like that. You have to have it as an aggregate group, but that's the general understanding of it.
Right. No, that's great. Thank you.
Good, yeah. So here we have just a quick snapshot of Revpar in Los Angeles County. And what this is telling us is the trend. So in 2021, and this was through Q2, because some of the data takes a while, but what we're seeing is a significant growth in these mid and lower priced hotels, where upper priced hotels are backwards. So that's telling us that the folks are coming into Los Angeles are selecting these mid priced and lower priced hotel units, and the upper price is rebounding a little bit slower. When you get into 2022, you see there's a projection for Los Angeles County of about 73% occupancy, and the Revpar growth will be 47%. So we are seeing continual growth projections, but most of the industry experts are calling for a 5-year recovery for hospitality for us to reach the 2019 levels pre-pandemic. So the good news is that for some of the hotels, the good news is that the projections are that the upper priced accommodations will lead in Revpar growth. So they're projecting a 75% Revpar. So this means the customers are seeking out those upper priced hotels and then spending money in the communities. That transient occupancy tax is coming to the city as well. So if you look at the next slide, this is just a brief overview. One of the options that we have is to look at Los Angeles as a submarket. So if you see the blue area within the circle, that is called the Manhattan Hermosa Beach. Of course, I wish it was Redondo, but we don't have control over these things. This is an industry publication. So you can see that.
Never mind that we have way more hotels than both of them combined.
Which is very important to the next slide I'm going to show you. But I just we can benchmark and see where the business is going within Los Angeles. So if it's going to Torrance, for example, or if it's going to some of the North County, we can see that information. So if you skip ahead, there are some promising results here. And I know I'm into some industry jargon, but I do want to share because this report is showing us that Manhattan Hermosa Beach, and to your point, Mayor Brand, Redondo has the majority of the hotels within that submarket. We are at a Revpar penetration of 117%. So what that means is all those submarkets that were listed above in the slide you just saw, we're performing at 117% of what they're achieving. So that puts us at the second highest Revpar penetration in all of those markets, in all 15, which is really, really impressive given the amount of airline crew and different business that's coming into the areas that we would be at 117% of these other submarkets and the second highest. As a benchmark, Santa Monica is at 109%. So looking at revenue per available room, we're outperforming that Santa Monica market over the past 4 quarters. We are ranked 10th in our Revpar growth. So that's saying how much we're growing year over year. We're 10 out of 15. However, when you look at LAX, they're 12th, which we understand due to the volume of flights. Santa Monica is ranked 15th. So among some of these top tier markets, Redondo Beach is really pulling a significant amount of market share. And then if you look at where that's coming from, in the bottom grid there, you can see the occupancy is over 108, 109%. So of these other regions, we're getting 8 to 9% more occupancy, 108 to 109. We're getting all of that same rate, 100% of the rate that's going to other submarkets, and our revenue is 109%. So looking at just that revenue per available room. So as customers have so many choices and there's so many markets available and different pricing coming in, the fact that our smaller market that doesn't have the same dollars as a Santa Monica or a Discover Los Angeles is able to pull in these types of results is very impressive. We're proud of what we've been able to accomplish there.
Can I ask a question on this subject?
Sure.
So is the fact that we are ranked 10th in Revpar growth, is that connected at all to the fact that maybe our rates were low to begin with because we're Redondo Beach, we're next to a power plant, that kind of thing? Does that factor into it at all?
Not necessarily, because it's looking at the year-over-year growth. So if our rates, it's comparing our growth compared to the growth of other industries. So if you see like the ADR, we're at 100%. So if we had higher rates and then dropped our rates, that could impact our ranking because we're not growing year over year. As it is, what I'm seeing, and we can kind of flip through the report later if you like, we're seeing occupancy that's going into the North County, like that Palmdale, Lancaster, and that's what's driving the majority of the growth there. It's not coming from rates.
Okay.
And I personally believe that to be airline crew related that's going in there. Because I know airlines were looking for lower accommodations, lower rated accommodations, and they were getting squeezed a little bit in the areas surrounding LAX.
So they're busing their employees to Palmdale?
Yes, they're busing them to the Valley. Mm-hmm. Some airlines will bus to the Valley, which, as we know, LA traffic, that seems remarkable, but we've heard it from several different crew sourcing organizations that's what they're looking at.
All due respect to Mayor Paris, Rex Paris, if you fly into LA on an air flight crew and then you end up in Palmdale, I think you're going to be sorely disappointed.
That's why they have labor relation problems right now.
Yep.
Got it.
So next we can go into the presentation to just show a brief timeline of how the year is shaped out and how we're looking at moving forward into 2022.
Hello, Council, Mayor, staff. This is Daniel Martin. My firm is Palucci, Saling, and Martin. This is our third year representing and supporting the Redondo Beach Tourism Board in conjunction with Rebecca's leadership. Mayor, I'd love to hear how you mentioned your sister city in La Paz. That is actually one of the ways we got introduced to Redondo Beach. We worked for the Mexican Tourism Board for about 8 years and represented the city of La Paz in all of their tourism efforts and brought their city up to Redondo Beach during a press conference about 4 or 5 years ago. So some background on us is just that this is what we do. This is our sort of number one objective, is to create awareness on behalf of Redondo Beach hotels and to ultimately move towards the effort of putting heads in beds and driving occupancy and increasing the TOT tax revenue. As we look back on this last year, really there are some very critical elements that impacted decisions we made. If you look at Q3 of 2020 and sort of the summer as a whole, we really started to move aggressively with drive distance ad campaigns. We moved towards the direction of staycation throughout the summer. We saw increases of people through the early fall period. At that time, we also made the decision to decrease our overall fiscal year funds from 2020 going into 2021 by 20%. So as you look at the budget we used this past year, it was 20% lower than the year prior. That is obviously related to the pandemic and other decisions that related to us being, as Rebecca noted, more judicious with our spend. As we moved into the Q4 of 2020, there was obviously a very significant holiday COVID surge through Thanksgiving, Christmas, and January. So much so that a lot of LA County travel restrictions were put in place. We really renegotiated and reset all of our plans, put money to the side with the initiation of a end of Q1 staycation campaign that integrated a stay 2 nights, get your third night free incentive on behalf of the hotels that was used as part of our budget. We funded the third night through the RBT efforts. And we focused on a higher engagement level in the geographic 2-hour range, targeted groups, and seasonal vacation. But as the world sort of turns, we continue to kind of see more opportunities open up to us in Q2 of 2021. And we actually began to increase our spend and really move in an aggressive manner towards spring and summer travel. We initiated outreach with social media influencers, summer ad campaign pushes, increased our video assets, went to YouTube, connected television buys, and had a more substantial media spend. But as luck would have it, there were a couple more twists and turns in the year ahead of us. The Delta variant did have an impact on travel bookings. We did make certain decisions to decrease spends again. The beauty of a lot of the digital ad spend is that you can make real-time decisions and move and adjust as the winds change. We kind of moved back towards that 2-hour drive audience and the staycation campaign concepts. And then at the end of Q3 2021, which really represents this fiscal year we're looking at, we really re-engaged all travel summer demand channels again. We hosted a variety of social media influencers, and the ad campaign really moved into a direction of what we're going to share with you today, the center of it all concept in relationship to Redondo Beach as a whole to larger Southern California events. I'm going to walk you through some details here of the really high level understanding of how the funds are being spent. And over 60% of the total allocation of the RBT's budget is spent on media. So that is direct ad spend, direct buys that go out on behalf of Redondo Beach in order to put paid impressions, circulation, views, if you will, out into the world on behalf of Redondo Beach. So as you look at sort of the high level executive brief, during fiscal year 2021, we spent probably 3 primary areas where the spend was most directly allocated. Paid search on Google and on Bing, social ad units on Facebook and Instagram, and the Expedia co-op campaigns. In addition, we had a variety of ads running on YouTube, iHeartRadio, some programmatic solutions, as well as some e-cards. Events and partnerships, just for reference, we actually invested our total co-op and partnership spend in conjunction with Beach Life during the fiscal year 2020. So we paid for our Beach Life sponsorship on behalf of RBT the year prior. So it did not pull out of any funds from this last year as the event was delayed. And we were able to re-engage on that partnership, and we'll share some slides with you as to what that looked like as well. But this is kind of a snapshot of where the money went and what the money was intended to do. And this is a quick snapshot for you on the return on investment and how that ultimately paid dividends relative to impressions or reach on behalf of Redondo Beach. So we had just over 20 million impressions achieved through our critical paid advertising channels. We have more impressions than that when you add up organic or non-paid impressions or social media impressions. But across the board, we're really looking at value-based, intent-based travelers. And what that means is we're not trying to necessarily convince someone who's never thought of taking a staycation in a 2 to 3 hour drive window to come visit Redondo Beach. We're very much focused on engaging people who are in market, who are looking. They're at the bottom of the funnel. You have the best chance to bring them over. And we felt as though that was the best use of some of the limited funds for this last year. So Google and Bing play a major role in that. You can see kind of the impression count, total clicks into the Redondo Beach website at the 42,000. And what does a click cost you? In the case of your campaigns, they average about 50 cents, a little bit over that. If you look at Facebook and Instagram, when we're running ads on their ad manager program, you're looking at about 8 million impressions with about 270,000 clicks. And that click on average costs about 30 cents. So across the board, you can kind of get a sense of what these different media vehicles provide you. In case of YouTube, we look at it as cost per view. So it's about half a cent for a cost per view. You look at programmatic banner ads, you're looking about $2.60 per 1,000 impressions. That's a CPM. And as you look at rental e-cards, we look at opens, we look at clicks, and this is all intended to do one thing: drive traffic, drive people who are in market looking for places to stay, within the Los Angeles sort of travel or Southern California travel market to the RedondoBeachTourism.com website. So in this particular case, we achieved website traffic of just under 250,000 sessions during our fiscal year. For comparable understanding, that's about 10% lower than the prior year, fiscal year 2020. I do like to remind everyone the fiscal year 2020, though, did include 5 months pre-pandemic, pre-March 19th, or actually it's Friday the 13th, I call it, Friday the 13th in March 2020. So we were just under 10% of the total web traffic, but in addition, we were about 20% off on the budget spend. So ultimately, we achieved more web traffic per dollar on behalf of the RBT during the fiscal year 2021 efforts as comparable to the 2020 efforts. You can also see a very conscientious and significant focus on drive time market. So the Los Angeles DMA making up about 25%, 41,000 of our visitors to Redondo Beach Tourism. You can see places like Bakersfield, Ontario, Riverside. This is oftentimes a staycation during the summer, get away from the heat, come to our hotels, different events occurring in the Los Angeles area where they're gonna wanna stay closer to them as a result of being in the Redondo Beach hotels that we offer.
Yeah, and just to take off on what you said, Daniel, this was an example of where Redondo Beach Tourism was very nimble with our funds. You know, it was unclear at first how the recovery would start, and then when there were different restrictions within different states, we quickly shifted to this drive market because some of the individual hotels information and what we were seeing coming in was the drive market. So we shifted our strategy away from that fly market during the time when there were different guidelines within the state towards the drive market, and we're able to capture a greater share there.
Okay, are you guys done?
I wish, Mayor Brand, but I'm going to give you a quick, if you're asking that, we're probably a little bit over time. So let me move a little bit quicker for you guys here.
Yeah, we got a lot of things, but thank you. This is great. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, so you understand the totality of what we're doing when we drive people to the website. It's all about ensuring that they look at our hotels. You can get a sense of the booking engine with about 78,000 views, cart ads around 1,700, and then actually driving people to the individual hotels, that 3,627 that you see for Shade and the various other hotels. It should be noted that within the RedondoBeachTourism.com web experience, we see that a lot more of the individuals are interested in what we'll call the higher priced daily rate hotels. But within the Expedia ad buy, which is all Insight in Expedia, we see a much higher proclivity by all the visitors to be looking at the mid to lower price. So we want to ensure that we're representing all of the hotels equally. The website does one effort in that regard, Expedia does another. So you have an understanding of the items that were out there this last year, how Redondo Beach is being represented from a visual standpoint. We had different campaigns that were a little bit more related to the pandemic. Stay 6 feet apart. We moved away from that over time. Stay close together and miles apart. The sea is the one place you can have all to yourself. How that executes itself into social ad units. Get away without going too far. So this would be on Instagram. This would be on Facebook. How it would look in an email campaign. The perfect place for your weekend getaway. How it would look in programmatic ad solutions. So these are tiles and ads that run on different news sites and other web sites. How it would look on YouTube. We run 7-second bumpers and 15-second and 30-second spots on YouTube. How it would look on Google and Bing. These are our top performing search ads that again represent the city of Redondo Beach and all of its hotels. How it would look on Expedia. This will just give me 20 seconds on this one. The average campaign investment, because it's a significant one, is around $22,000 for Expedia. We ran 3 of these on season, and you can get a sense in terms of actual impact to the budget, to the bottom line of the hotels. Just under $2 million of bookings for hotel rooms were directly attributed to the Expedia efforts at an average daily rate of $109, some of the other details there. It's important to reference that we were partners with Beach Life this past year. Beach Life promoted us in some sweepstakes getaways for overnight in hotels, co-branded content on all of their social media outlets. We had quite a bit of engagement with the sweepstakes, and we also had an on-site presence with advertising at the event and video content promoting Redondo Beach under this domain, redondobeachlife.com, and really pushing our hotels through that space. We also run an organic social media program on your behalf. So we have Facebook pages, Instagram pages, as well as a YouTube channel where all of the content is restored and posted. And in that same spirit, we spent about 4 to 5% of our total budget this last year on bringing out actual influencers, people with large social media followings, and really had a lot of success with them this last year. We had an empty nester / older adult type couple, Best Life and Beyond, who really did some amazing stuff on our behalf. We had
influencers in that demographic.
Yeah, there's an influencer for every demographic. There's our South Bay mommies. Whether that's young families coming to stay in Redondo Beach. We always emphasize, I want to make this point too, the idea of whenever our people came to Redondo Beach, they ate in Redondo Beach restaurants, they experienced Redondo Beach businesses, and they had a complete and total Redondo Beach sort of overall experience. Hunter Jones, who some of you may know, kind of the adventure tourism elements and surfer, videographer, his stay, as well as what we did our first ever sort of staycation Redondo. They stayed at some of our North Campus hotels. This is Vince Lee. We gave him and his daughter a trip to Disneyland. They talked about how easy it was to get to all of the attractions in around Los Angeles by staying in Redondo Beach. And then also went out on some boating trips and experienced the water with us. I'm assuming all of this is in the report for the team to go through on their own. But we do have a set of 2022 objectives that are really important and are sort of guiding the ship forward. They really are.
Make it quick, Daniel. We got to get going.
All right. And so here's the creative executions for you guys. And we're really excited about continuing to push it forward. It really comes down to kind of one message, the center of all things SoCal, the classic California instant local stay. And that's where we're going to be emphasizing and moving things forward for the Redondo Beach team.
Let me just say, Daniel and Rebecca, that is the most fantastic presentation I have ever seen from a tourism board or visitors bureau. Been up here for, I don't know, 13 years or something. And really, I mean, that's just unbelievably bang up job and deep with information and probably more than we were ready for. I know it is more than I was ready for, but it's very interesting. And clearly these people that are getting paid to go whoop it up in these different towns, influencers, I'm definitely in the wrong business. So anyway, I practice my YouTube skills. It's fantastic. And to see that you guys, are, financially on solid footing. We were subsidizing our visitors bureau and chamber for, I don't need to get into it, a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So we're saving that. And it's just fantastic. I appreciate all the information and what you guys are doing, the way you've organized yourselves. And Rebecca, I don't think you're getting paid for this. So
no, these are all volunteer positions.
Yeah, exactly. I think Daniel's got a contract, but you don't, and neither do the other people. So I really appreciate the time and effort you've put into it. Everybody appreciates it. So
thank you.
Okay, and this is a receive and file, right? We don't have to do anything. We're not doing anything. Yeah.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Obaji.
I'm trying to make it quick because the mayor is probably trying to move us along. But I don't think, by the way, I was going to echo what he said in case you're getting the wrong message from him. But we have obviously problems to address, and this is clearly not a problem. You guys are doing a fantastic job. And just to highlight the great job you're doing, I did go to Redondo Beach tourism.com, and this is a beautiful website that makes you feel like you just want to jump into Redondo Beach when you look at it. So bravo to you guys on that. The question I had for you, what I noticed glaringly missing, and not in a bad way, from all of your slides and this website is that statement that we see here on this page that says City Council meeting, the more to see Redondo Beach. I noticed that you guys are not running with that. And I imagine, yes, okay, you're nodding your head, Daniel. Can you tell me about why you're not? Because I think this leads to a discussion that's probably going to be had on a planning commission or some other area of the city as we think about our objectives going forward.
The concept and communication platform that was presented to council about 3 years ago was very specific as sort of an outbound Redondo Beach tourism based message. And based upon the study, the research, and the background that we provided, we really kind of emphasized a repositioning that we felt would extend to a larger and more impactful audience to drive revenue. And that was around sort of this idea of classic California instant local. And so it was decided and agreed upon in conjunction with the council's approval that we would identify Redondo Beach Tourism under that brand identity and not what I'll call kind of the more municipal positioning that's under the More to See Redondo Beach position.
All right. I appreciate that. Is there any way that do you think that if the city from a municipal standpoint rebranded itself from More to See to, I don't know, something else or a different logo, that it would be more attractive and that message would be consistent with your Redondo Beach tourism kind of message?
Yes. I mean, it was never on the table really to be considering that based upon the idea that the TOT funds were funding this sort of effort and that the hotels were really the ones guiding a lot of the thinking around sort of the brand position for it. But do I think, and do I know to be true across all the experience I have in placemaking that a single identity would have the most impact to move all efforts forward on behalf of Redondo Beach's identity? Most assuredly.
All right. That's it. I'll just make a motion to receive and file and also direct staff to work with Mr. Martin's firm, however that may be, to try to figure out how the municipal identity can more align with the tourism identity. That's
Councilmember, we need to also adopt a resolution for this item.
And adopt the resolution recommended by the staff.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Councilmember Nierenheim, you had your hand up.
Yeah, real quick. So what did you guys say looking forward in the next 6 months and next year? Everything is strong. I didn't get that.
It's improving. It's improving. So last fiscal year, we collected about $500,000 in assessment. This fiscal year, we're anticipating $625,000. So improving, but not yet back.
And these are all local or United States visitors, no international visitors, right? So
the vast majority of our guests are local, domestic. Yeah. Specifically since the pandemic.
Yeah. Does that hold true? So since we just opened up the international travel yesterday, do we expect to get influx in international?
Individual hotels may, we're hoping to, certainly for my hotel. Right now with the funds the way that they are, it's expensive to buy into the international market. So RBT is intending to supplement hotel budgets and not kind of bid against. So that's where we focus on these qualified funnels, and then other hotels can attack the international travel markets through like kind of FIT wholesale is one area where they have operators within different companies that are kind of reselling the rooms. So we're hoping to see an increase in international travel.
Okay. This is a great job, you guys. Like Mayor, I echo everything Mayor Brand said. Very thorough. This is the cleanest ever. Impressive. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Really appreciate all the hard work, volunteering, and the paid work as well, because that definitely adds a huge amount too. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all for your time.
Yeah. What does FIT mean?
FIT, it's an industry term for frequent individual traveler. So hotels can contract with different companies and they give a discounted rate, and these tour operators mark that price up and they resell it to different European guests. And so it's a segment of business where the hotels will contract a specific rate and an allotment with these companies, and then they kind of resell your hotel rooms abroad. And that's one of the ways that several hotels kind of attack the international market.
I see. Okay, got it. All right. Well, there's a thanks again, you guys. Fantastic presentation. Are there any public comment?
Yes, we have no Zoom, but we have some comments. Vicki, would you like to read those?
Thank you. The first comment is from Mickey Marafino. The RBTT has been meticulous in their planning and promoting of Redondo Beach as a destination. The guidance provided by PSM has been solid, especially in light of the pandemic. They continue to measure results and review metrics every month while being strategic in the use of the budget. I would love to see a citywide travel and tourism research study conducted so we can better evaluate the halo effect of tourism on Redondo Beach businesses. Tourists would include not only hotel guests, but also visitors who stay with local families and make arrangements other than hotel stays. Next comment is submitted by Casey Iacono. PTT and PSM have been instrumental in creating awareness and promoting the hotels in Redondo Beach as a destination. PSM takes feedback from the hotels and stays current on marketing trends, as well as making sure initiatives we participate in make sense for the destination. Look forward to working with RBTT and PSM in 2022. Next comment submitted by Marco Perry. Excuse me?
Bad grammar. Look forward. I look forward.
I read what I see.
Mute, Mr.
Anybody else with it?
I'll continue now.
Thank you.
Submitted by Marco Perry. I'll start once more. RBTT has been instrumental in providing data, analysis, and marketing power to Redondo Beach as a destination, which has a primary effect on hotel bookings, leading to increased business levels for restaurants, bars, retail, and other services. A critical component, especially during these dark times during the pandemic, and more so as we come out and are able to maintain a competitive edge over our neighboring destination communities. That concludes the public comment or e-comment on this item.
Great. Thank you, Vicki. There's a motion on the floor in a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Naranat.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
Aye.
Councilmember Horvath.
Aye.
Councilmember Obaji. And Councilmember MD.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you all very much.
So I'm going to read the resolution, adopt by title only, resolution number CC-2111-111. A resolution, City Council, City of Redondo Beach, California, approving the report of Redondo Beach travel and tourism for fiscal year 2022 in connection with the Redondo Beach Tourism Marketing District. Thank you, Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Eleanor. Next up is item N2, discussion and possible action on 2020 census and demographic data and City Council redistricting requirements. It's, we got the census numbers, folks, and make sure we have equal districts. So this is typical. We have to generally move our district lines every 10 years. A lot of, every government agency is going through this. Counties, cities, states. So anyway, Brandy Forbes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see my presentation. Okay. All right, so this item is the review of the 2020 census data and the council redistricting requirements in Redondo Beach. The city's charter requires that when the U.S. Census data is released, the city examine the boundaries of each district so that they are as nearly equal in population as practicable. Any modification to the boundaries is to be done within 9 months of reviewing the data. So the city received the data from the Census Bureau August 16th, which 9 months puts us in mid-May. While there is no specific legal requirement indicating how much deviation in population is acceptable to set district boundaries, a 5% deviation from the target number or total population divided by the 5 districts has historically been considered when acceptable, within the acceptable limits in Redondo Beach. As well, there are other basic guiding principles that have been followed. The first is existing district boundaries should be retained to the extent possible, and changes to boundaries should be minimized. District boundaries should follow natural boundaries such as major streets where feasible and appropriate. And district boundaries should be logical, contiguous, and readily dissembled. I'm not quite sure what I wrote there. Readily sent out to the district residents. There were minor changes in the map to address the 2010 census information, since the prior district boundaries from 2000 caused a greater than 5% deviation in District 1. And there was a major population growth in District 4 over that 10-year period. The adjustments resulted in the approved 2010 distribution of population by council district. As you can see here, the adjustments resulted in deviations less than 5% from the target population from district, per district. So again, that target population is taking the total population, dividing it by 5. So you want to try and get it as equal as possible. And this, for example, here, District 1 deviated from that by, it was below that by 3.43%. But all of these deviations, when the final district distribution was determined for 2010, they all were within a 5% deviation. With the new 2020 census data, there was also a new disclosure avoidance procedure that was incorporated. This process was created because with today's technology, exact Census Bureau data can be constructed or paired with other information for example, from commercial data brokers to identify people and their information. So this procedure includes a new mathematical algorithm intended to protect data while preserving accuracy. And I had provided a link in the administrative report that kind of had one of those like sketched up explanation of how that works, as well as the detailed document that explains what that process is, what the deviation process is. The only 2020 census data that are reported as exact counts, or what they refer to as invariants, are the total population at the state level, the number and type of occupied group quarters facilities at the block level, and the number of housing units, whether occupied or not, at the block level. So this slide kind of speaks for itself. What we discovered when we were looking at the district data that we received for 2020 was that one particular block was incredibly skewed. So in this, you can see this is the 2010, and it just kind of shows where, you know, there might be higher populations in different blocks. Those are similar in the 2020, except for this one block here. As you can see, that one block shows an anomaly. It went from a population of 162 people in 2010 to the census claiming that there's 1,716 people in population in 2020, yet it only increased by one housing unit in that particular census block. So unfortunately, that was incorrect. The population at anything less than the state level is calculated using the mathematical algorithm. And the algorithm shows that the total population increase for the city from 2010 to 2020 is 4,828. However, when you're looking at the per block data, that 1/3 of the citywide population increase is located, they're claiming is located in that one single block.
Which street is that, Brandy? Or which streets are that? Is that
5 to 600 block of Paulina?
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, but they said it was wrong, correct, Brandy?
Right. Well, I'm getting to that part.
Thank you.
The big family that moved in there.
Yeah, right. The big family of 1,500 people. So this is a one block, R1 zoning, only increased by a single housing unit over that 10-year period. So obviously there's something incorrect with this information. This slideshow shows the reported 2020 population as the census reported it, and it has that one block in District 3 is really showing up here. You can see that change in population is really so significant. And then when you look at that, when you distribute that and try and find what would be that equal number per district, and we talk about, you know, not wanting to vary from that by more than 5%, you can see District 3 here is varying significantly more than that. So, you know, just this alone shows that that there would need to be changes, but how you change that when it's not exact data is the challenge.
Well, wait a minute. We go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that inaccurate number is it drives a standard deviation.
Yeah.
So everything could change. They correct that number, you may be within 5%. I don't know, but that
maybe, yeah.
That last column is as worthless as the
exactly.
The third column.
Right. So there's definitely a problem here. So when the city initially had noticed this anomaly back in August, when we first got the data, staff reached out to the Census Bureau and spoke with a representative. The representatives that we discussed this with pointed out that the algorithm procedure said that we should just go to the next larger geographic category as the basis. But the census block level is the lowest or smallest categorical level of geography. The next level is a census block group. But even if you're trying to calculate it on that, 1,500 was a third of the increase of the total population of the city. So it's still going to be skewed at the higher level. So the city staff did discover that the Census Bureau has correction procedures, and that was posted on October 8th. We submitted a request for a correction data. We just received a response back yesterday that there is an appeal process called the Count Question Resolution, or CQR program. And as you can see, the earliest that, it's not even, they're just doing a Federal Register notice. The first that you can even submit your appeal is January 3rd of 2022. They're taking appeals for 1.5 years, and the earliest, or the deadline, I should say, for them to provide results is September 30th of 2023. So yes, we can appeal this. I think that we should appeal this, not for this particular purpose, so much as we use this data so regularly, and there's obviously a flaw in this data. So there is this appeal process. I don't know that that's going to be our solution for addressing this anomaly. So there are a few options that staff has kind of come up with. There are certainly others that could be discussed. The first would be just a basic delete the anomaly from the data set and adjust the map accordingly. Per the Census Bureau representative, in that block, what they're claiming is that there is a non-institutional group quarters that reported 1,545 of that population. Yet this is single family. We all know that there's no large group quarters that has gone into that particular area. As a matter of fact, I don't think there's any group quarters that is more than maybe 120 people there. And so, it just isn't making any sense that this would be located in that area. So
they're wrong, Randy.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, they have to correct that for it to be official, but one of the options would be that you could delete that 1,547 from that block and from the total population. That would be the simplest to calculate and correct. And I have provided some information in this presentation on that. Just wanted to give you a couple other options. Again, none of them are going to be precise or exact. Another would be if you equally distributed the population by the census block and then make a district adjustments from there. Or again, that's not going to be a precise distribution. Another would be, if you recall, I mentioned those invariants, those exact counts. One is housing unit data, which we do have at that block level. But it's still having to calculate and make assumptions if you're taking into consideration the persons per household per district in 2010. Did they all grow at the same rate? If so, would those calculations work? And so that's another option. Certainly the simplest would be to just delete that particular non-institutional group quarters. Okay, and as I mentioned, here's the here is the 2010, here's the 2020. This was based on what the census reported. Here was that change. We're going back to, that was that column that you mentioned, Mayor, that really doesn't make any sense or it's not going to be valuable. Now, if we make the adjustment and take that group quarters out of District 3 and take it out of the total population, now we're talking about changes in population here where the deviation from the target are all within a 5%. So there, that may be an option that would work out.
So my comment was prescient. I mean, I could see where this was going before we even saw this.
Right.
Just need to fix it and move on. I'm sorry. It's just...
So here is a map. This is just one option of the district boundaries as they exist are the purple lines. You could keep the district boundaries and you can see what the deviation from the target is for each of those districts. You could adjust the boundaries, which would bring them more nearly equal in population, but it would be adjusting the boundaries. Here was, we're trying to bring it as close as you could to being equal. It brings it a lot closer, but it would make some adjustments. It's following, trying to make it follow the roadways. Here, this is a large block, so that, and this doesn't have to be this. It can be adjusted in a different way. But this is one whole block right here that you want to keep it so it's not some strange configuration. But this is just one possibility. Or again, you could keep the district boundaries as they are and they still meet that 5%. They're within the 5% deviation. So with that, some possible action would be direct staff to appeal the 2020 census data. As I mentioned, even though it doesn't get us to the answer here right now for the census redistricting, it will address a lot of the other things that we use census data for. And then the other is to discuss and direct staff on which methodology or potential methodologies you want to consider for census redistricting.
Okay, great, Brandy. Fantastic presentation, very clear. I'm in favor of just correcting it, and then it looks like we don't need to redraw lines. Is that correct?
You wouldn't need to. You could to make the adjustment to make them more equal, but it is still within that 5% deviation.
Right. Okay. And 10 years ago when we did this, I believe we were outside of that 5%.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
And we just moved a couple of streets. So, okay. Thank you. Councilmember MD.
So that block isn't the only one that looks like there's an anomaly. I understand that that's a huge anomaly, but there's obviously, you're shaking your head. So I'm assuming that means that you also see that there's other blocks in that area that are not consistent with what was in 2010.
We didn't see anything that stood out to the significance of this. This was definitely something that stood out, but if you have additional blocks that you're concerned about, we can, look into those.
Well, I mean, just look at the Pier area. It went from went from 500 to 800 down to 200 people. I mean, so
that with the Pier area, what they did was it used to be an entire grouping. Here, I'm going to share this again, just so you can see. In the Pier area, it had been, this was all one block, and then they broke it up into multiple blocks. So if you looked at the total, it's still in that same range, but part of it's in a lower range and part of it's in the larger range. So that, those are some of the adjustments they made to the blocks themselves.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Councilmember Horvath.
Yeah, I'm of the mind to delete the anomaly or ignore the anomaly, whatever it is you want to do. It doesn't make any sense. And then I would say either keep the lines as is, or if you've got to make minor adjustments, then so be it. But it doesn't seem like, if we're within the 5% threshold once the anomaly is removed, then I don't know why we need to spend all the time and effort, but I'll leave that up to you and your staff.
Yeah, and one if you go, one of the things I'd mentioned earlier, I'm just going to revisit it briefly, was there were a few other of the basic guiding principles that have been used in the past. One would be existing district boundaries should be retained to the extent possible, and changes to the boundaries should be minimized. Again, the boundaries should follow natural boundaries such as major streets, should be logical, contiguous, and readily discernible to the district residents.
Okay, Councilmember Longseat.
I'm glad to go. I think Councilmember Nierenheim is ahead of me, though.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Councilmember Nierenheim. Sorry, my mistake.
Okay, no worries. I was blown away by that map, just the densities along the beaches. District 1 there, I always knew that it was extremely high dense, and then see that there with that in their shading was shocking, really. So yeah, I'm just in favor of appealing the number to keep us in within that 5%, so we don't have to redraw any of the district lines. If we, how does this work? Are they going to redraw the lines for us? We do it ourselves?
We do it.
And we do that after we get our appeal back, so after 2023?
No, you need to make a determination on your district boundaries. Per our charter, we have to do that within 9 months of receiving the census data. So we have to do that by ordinance by mid-May. So there's no way you could wait till September 2023 and still meet that.
Right.
There might be. It depends on whether, and we haven't looked at it, but if the federal government has a definition of when they send it. So if during the appeal period, if you don't receive the information until they correct it, it would be, it's 9 months from receipt. And so maybe we can check with the
That's true, yeah.
That would give us more time.
That's a really good point.
I haven't looked at it, but that's an option.
I would imagine this is just a draft form, a primary copy. It's not the official, right?
No, this is the official 2020 data. What we would have to do is appeal it. And I think what the city attorney is, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but would be is if we appeal it and we don't have the final determination of that number that's being appealed, and we have 9 months after we receive whatever that final number is. But he has to look into it from the sounds of it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll just end with saying that let's just keep it within 5%. Again, a lot of stuff that I already knew. Uber North Redondo, District 5, their TLE track, very light, very little density, no density really compared to what is along the coastline there on the Esplanade in the 300, 400, 500 block. It's just insane density there. And our current zoning and past zoning shows that. So I am surprised though that District 1 lost 400 residents, because we did gain a lot of net new residents units. So even though we don't have Legato and 1 South, we do have a bunch of other net new units.
No, new units.
Well, new units, what you would think means new residents, right?
So are you looking from the staff report?
Yeah, Brandy, make clear. I think you might be referencing, Council, that the target deviation shows a negative versus new drawings, but I think
400.
2010 over versus 2020, I think your population has still grown.
Yeah, the even with the making that amendment. Let me see.
Brandy, once you can pull your chart.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up here.
Your total population in each district grew. That what is happening is the delta between the target number versus the equitable number is changing based on the new figure.
Right. So if you have the adjusted,
far to the left, Brandy. Go to the far left. 2010 population, District 1 is 12,892. 2020 population is 13,670.
Yeah. So here's your change. Here's your change in population adjusted. It's just the deviation from the target. The target would be as if they're all equal, all the districts were equal. So you're actually, like, all the districts increased in population.
Okay.
Well, and I think maybe even to be more specific there, Brandon, it's actually it's the third column that's the true change. The problem is in District 3, that includes the anomaly. So it's not 1,885 units in District 3.
Right.
It's that less to 1,550 roughly.
Right. This is the census.
Yeah. There's your census growth.
This is what we're going to appeal to get is this here.
Every district saw growth. I mean, and your growth is right there in column 3.
Okay. I misread that. Thank you. Appreciate that. That's perfect. Okay. Yeah, I'm in favor of appealing. I see some other hands up. I'm in favor of appealing it and waiting for the outcome and going from there. Thank you.
So everybody knows 10 years ago, there was more than 5% deviation. And so we had to move some district lines, and staff came to us, explain the deviation, and make recommendations of how to move the lines to correct, just to better balance the populations within the district. So you don't see those recommendations because they're not really recommending that we move the lines. So
Real quick on that point, Mayor Brandy, if we don't have a 5% deviation now, what if we don't have a 5% deviation 2030, but the total deviation was like 4.5?
It's only based on that. So it's your deviation. So here's your district boundaries. You have them set. And now the next year you're going to have you distribute your population by those district boundaries. If there is one of those that now is deviating from the total population. So it's not like this cumulative, you're going to be comparing it to here are the district boundaries, here's the population in those current district boundaries.
Right.
How far off are they from what would be an equal distribution of the population throughout the city? And then that's where your deviation comes from. It's not basing it on, prior year's deviations or anything like that. It's really just basing it on just what those current district boundaries are and do they need to be, it's basically telling you whether or not you need to adjust them.
And to maybe add on to that, I think, and part of your question, Councilman, and it's a good one, is if you have large deviations now, right? I mean, say we pull the anomaly off and you can see the populations by district, you're going to see quite a spread between the district with the most and the district with the fewest. It may be within the 5%, and it may be prudent for us to simply leave the boundaries where they are. But if we don't make the tweak, there is a possibility that that spread grows over the next 10 years.
Right, at the trend of that, yeah.
With the 2030 census, but by the tail end of that 10-year cycle, you could see one district be significantly farther afield of another. So that's why if you're inclined, you may want to tweak these boundaries a touch to try to tighten it up to avoid that. However, as the mayor points out, you may want to avoid that altogether and simply be comfortable with where we're at, because it's really not all that different than where we were after our adjustments the last time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Let's focus on this 10-year period and not worry about what could happen in 10 years, because we could end up overcorrecting, outsmarting ourselves. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 years, how things can move differently, and then we will have corrected in the wrong direction. I mean, it's just, we're under 5%. People keep that in mind. Anyway, Councilmember Obaji.
Yeah, I guess I'm of the mind, let's just keep things as is, because the deviation between, let's say, District 5 and District 2 is maybe, 1,000 people as adjusted? Yeah, it's just under 1,000 people. So, and I agree. I mean, it's 4% now in District 5 that they're deviated from the target. And maybe they'll continue to grow, and by the next time we will need to change the lines. But better than, you're going to have some residents, if we change the lines now, you're going to have residents whose lines changed on them now. They're going to change districts, and then maybe they're going to change districts again in 10 years. So I'd say, plus I imagine you guys have maps printed on the walls and stuff, and then take them down, reprint those, and put them back up with new lines. Like, let's avoid that cost. Let's just keep it as is. We're complying with the law, assuming that that's an error and it can be dispelled in one on appeal, and move forward. So that would be my motion, is to disregard, to the extent legally permissible, disregard the anomaly group and keep the district boundaries as is.
I'll second that, as long as you, if you would accept the amendment of filing an appeal.
Yes, I'm filing the appeal.
Okay.
Okay, motion and a second. Councilmember MD.
Can you pull up that chart again of the numbers that you just did, the spreadsheet? So the change of population is adjusted because, I agree, we just removed the anomaly. It's obviously going to be different, but I think I would change the boundaries because the population is going to grow accordingly. And it's not that big a deal to change them, and it would just make it, more equitable along the lines. But if you guys want to give District 5 1,000 more people, that's fine too. But I would change the boundaries. And in one point that was brought up by another council member, just because the block is a darker color doesn't have anything to do with density, because the blocks are all different sizes and just that block is bigger. So that's all that you can't take that into account as far as density on those. And so anyway, that was it, just a point of clarification.
Okay. Sorry, pulling up. Why can't I see? Because you're sharing your screen. Can somebody stop sharing?
Sorry.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
I'm for ignoring that huge block. One thing, and Brandy, can you email us that map that you did at the very end that would involve tweaking? Because I don't find it anywhere. The one thing I would say though, and maybe it's just my district in particular, but then maybe it's others as well. There's certain residential blocks that are half one district and half another. For example, Maria. It's very confusing to residents when that happens. And that would be one minor tweak I might want to change, because it's confusing. 100 particular 100 block is one district, another particular 100 block is another district, or it's straight down the middle of the block. When I get people emailing me and saying, hey, it's Christian's district, or vice versa. That might be one thing I might want to tweak, and that's not a huge tweak, but it's for me, I think it's important. So that might be one thing I'd want to look at. I might make a friendly amendment that we keep pretty much the same, but make that small change so that we can make sure that residents know who the representative is.
Well, let me ask Brandy. Brandy, is that a small effort?
The thing is that the blocks are set, that is set by the census as far as like what the boundaries are on a block. So if you make an adjustment in one place, you're now going to have to make an adjustment in another district. So I don't know. I'm not the professional that works with the GIS to say if it would be an easy feat or not. But it is something, we could evaluate and see if you let us also know like which blocks are the ones that you're most concerned, because otherwise we're guessing. Yeah.
Well, see, so that's my point. This is not going to be a simple process, because you're going to change the numbers in each district, and you have to figure out how many people live on a block so that you can split it down, I guess, the property lines, not down the streets. I mean, this is, I can't imagine this is going to be a simple process.
Well, and if we were to do that, Mayor, what we would probably do then is we'd ask that you give us some liberty to sort of jump and probably absorb blocks to a point where we could find contiguous boundaries, as Brandy pointed out in the other chart. We wouldn't want any mid-block ending. We'd want to find the logical break at boulevards or streets or some clear delineator. So we can do this. That's why, candidly, that's why we're here early. We wanted to give ourselves time. If you want us to go down this exercise, certainly efficiency we always like, and we're happy to leave it as is. But we have ample time to make tweaks if you want to issue spot. We can do that for you. You just got to give us that direction, and we'd come back with some proposed map that hopefully meets that goal. So
okay, so there's a friendly amendment. Does the motion maker and the seconder accept that?
Oh, so I want to address that, and I'd like to reject it. I'm sorry, I took a screenshot of your slide here, Brandy. Councilmember Lowenstein, you're at -3% right now. If you end up giving up some of your block to District 1, District 1 could potentially rise up further. Sorry. And it would get closer to the target. No, it would change residents. Yeah, it's going to change. And then
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actually adding them, like for example, the east side of Maria to District 2.
Okay, and that's currently in District 1 or it's in District 3?
District 3.
Right.
It's kind of similar to the Harriman lanes.
Right. So that's and that was the next example I was going to bring, which is on Harriman. We have one side of the street is District 3 and one side of the street is District 4. People get it. They know that at some point. Like I walk Harriman and they're like, I'm not in your district. You don't need to talk to me because I'm on that side of the street. And they get it. They get it after some number of years, and there's mailers and all that. So I would just say of all the things that we have this limited staff to work on, and it being to preserve existing lines a priority, I would much rather just keep the lines as is, and we can change all the district lines come 10 years from now, or sorry, the next council can change all the district lines 10 years from now. But right now, this is like changing lines has got to be the lowest priority.
Well, how many streets are there are there a lot of streets in residential areas where the delineation is one-sided street versus the other? I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, what our GIS professional has just let me know is that the blocks are based on the street center line. So somebody across the street is going to be in a different block. So they base it on the center line of the streets.
I'll reject the amendment, but if you make a substitute motion and somebody seconds it, then we're going to take it out.
Well, that's always the case. All I'm saying is like most districts are separated by center lines of street. It's going to change that whole chart. It's going to change everything.
Yeah, not worth it.
Okay. Well, if you guys really think that it's that big of a deal, I'll withdraw that amendment. But I didn't realize. When you say center lines of streets, there's a big difference between the center line of Maria versus the center line of Torrance Boulevard. Everybody knows that that's a huge delineation. But, again, I still have people on Maria writing me, and I said, that's not my district. These are longtime residents.
Help them out, Councilmember Lowenstein. You can help them
I do. But still,
I think Todd and I are swapping people all the time because they are confused. But I support Todd's idea because it just it is simplified when, you have a full block in there. It's easy to understand the demarcation.
But even a street like Matthews, for example, that's 4 and 5, right?
Yeah.
It's very clear that I think all of Matthews is in 4. It's very clear. If you divide it between the two, and you got people moving in and out all the time. I'm not saying in Maria, which is primarily a single family street. You have people moving in and out that are in apartments. They may not know the difference if you drove through the line straight down Matthews. But, if you guys think that that's, too much of a hassle, then I'm willing to withdraw that. I just thought it would be an easy tweak for people to understand. So, but if it's a big issue, then I'm not going to take it up. I don't know what you, Brandy, and you, Mike, think, but.
Well, listen, not having gotten into the granular data, I can't tell you how many segments we have with that kind of a conflict, but your policy initiatives on this are clear. Try to find logical boundaries. And if there are places where our current district maps don't do that and they create confusion, it might be worth spending a little time to see if we can solve that problem in a more logical way. With clearly the goal of not massively shifting these districts, because everybody's clearly comfortable with the general population distribution here. So we can look at it and play with it a little bit in advance of of our ordinance drafting, and maybe come back to you with something as part of that initial discussion. And if for some reason by this as being a massive issue, to the mayor's point, we can come back and tell you, you know what, we want to just leave them where they're at, because I think we're going to create more problems than we solve. Then we'll like that.
I'm seeing Brandy nod her head in encouragement. Like
what I'm thinking is what I can distribute is that map that I had shown. I haven't had a chance to distribute that. We just put that together today. And you can look at where are you having the difficulty, because that's really, I think that, if it is just between districts 2 and 3, maybe there are some adjustments that can be made there. If your other districts are not seeing that problem, that might be an easier issue to address. So I'll send that around, and you just let us know which are the ones that you're having the most complexities with, or that there's so much confusion on.
And our goal then, if that is the ultimate motion, we would come back to you probably in January with an update and give you some kind of drawings and see what sort of progress we've made. And like I said, if we're struggling with it, we'll try to move forward with an ordinance as currently drawn.
So where are we? Was there a friendly amendment that got accepted?
I'd like to make an amendment for at least a look at this. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, staff time. But if it's a quick look, then
yes,
yeah.
I'll accept the amendment.
Okay. Does the seconder accept the amendment?
I will only accept it if and only if we get our section of Torrance back, which is Redondo, Palo Riviera, or they change it to Torrance regular, because I get so many questions from them too. They all think I'm a council member. It's fine because they all like me. But no, I mean, listen, as long as it doesn't take much staff time, I don't see this is a one block issue. This is
I think making the city boundaries might be a bigger issue.
Yeah, that's a fight with the post office. We know how successful we've been with them.
I don't know. Jeff Ginsburg was able to redraw the lines, actually.
Mills, I thought you wanted Avenue P back, or was it Avenue?
Okay.
So the motion is to keep the lines the same with the exception of an appeal the anomaly that seems to be errant, as well as look at the Maria Street boundary line to where that can be adjusted so that District 2, that's entirely either in District 3 or 2 or something like that.
I don't think it was just Maria, right?
Just any of those split street.
Yeah, split streets generally. That's
So it
fine.
was disregard the anomaly, keep the district boundaries with looking at minor adjustments to address the confusion between those districts and submitting the appeal, right?
Confusion in those districts where there's a boundary line down the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. And the seconder, Councilmember.
But so long as it doesn't consume undue time.
We'll let you know. We'll come back in advance if this is becoming problematic for us.
Cool. Thanks.
And Mayor, we have no public comments for this item.
Yeah, that was my next question. Okay, I'll do Councilmember Nierenheim, did you have another comment?
No, that's it. I'm good. Thank you.
We'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Nierenheim.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
Thank you, guys. Aye.
Councilmember Horvath.
Aye.
Councilmember Obaji.
Aye.
And Councilmember MD.
Aye. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you, Brandy. Next up, possible action, discussion and possible action pertaining to a possible charter ordinance amendment for voters to approve the implementation of ranked choice voting and replace runoffs, eliminate runoffs for city elective offices. Okay, Eleanor.
Yes. So Vicki, you can go ahead and set up the PowerPoint and get started.
Did that person come back in time?
For ranked choice voting? Well, see after. She might still be there. First, before, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So first, I just wanted to reiterate regarding the March 2nd, 2021 election. We spent $216 $1,000. So if we would have went with the county, we actually saved $384,000. So we just wanted to say that for the record, since I now have the final numbers. So, so how does ranked choice voting work? So here's an example of a ballot. And so for city council or any contest, you would have, if you have 3 people running, 2 people running, 10 people running, or 14 running, you would have to pick a first, second, third, fourth, fifth choice. It goes up to 10. That is right now what can fit on a sheet going to the right. And so if you have 14 people running for city council for a district, and you have only 10 choices, so you would pick your choices, and they would get calculated. And if the candidate wins 50% plus 1, they would be the automatic winner. So on that final day, if they don't, if no one receives 50% plus 1, which normally we would do a runoff 70 days later, here what would happen is your second choice, or the last person, the last candidate is eliminated, and those ballots, whoever their second choice, would now go to that person. And if no one still gets 50% plus 1, it would go to the next last person. And then it would still go through those rounds until one candidate is left with 50% plus 1. So that's how ranked choice voting works. So I'm going to go ahead and just sort of, it's using Post-it notes, but it's just a simplified way to show what happens. So I have a presentation here that I'm going to go ahead and show. Let's see here. Real quick, just like a 1 minute. Okay, here we go.
You get to rank your top 3.
Well, purple is the best, but if I can't have purple, I want blue. And if neither of those wins, I guess I can live with orange.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Now, let's count up everybody's votes.
Under ranked choice voting rules, it's not enough just to get the most votes. You need a majority.
More than 50% of the votes.
Purple's ahead, but it has only 7 votes.
It needs at least 11 to win.
So we eliminate the color in last place.
Sorry, orange fans, we're going to your second choice.
2 more for green.
1 for purple.
But no color has 11 votes yet.
Still no majority. Bye-bye, blue.
1 more for purple.
4 for green.
And we have a winner.
The ranked choice voting way.
Okay. That's just a simplified way of showing ranked choice voting. Okay, so bring it back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so what's going to cost to implement ranked choice voting? So we can go ahead and go to the, oops. Here we go. So we went and spoke to our vendors, and this is what it would cost. So the print and mailing of ballots, voter information guide would be between $150 and $175. Okay. The ballot design and voter tabulation equipment. So right now the only certified that can do ranked choice voting is Dominion. So it'd be about $60 to $65K. Another thing would be additional equipment. So in a sense of what happened at the last election, this would be either whether it's ranked choice voting or a regular election. We had a lot of labor intensive, separating the ballots, viewing signatures and things like that. And we would have a sorter, so it would take some of that labor intensive, so that we make sure we stay within that 2 weeks of announcing who the winner would be. The other, and we would be able to cost share with some other cities, because there are cities that they're not having their elections with the county, because especially this coming year in 2022, you have cities who are actually doing, because it's a governor's race, instead of March, they're doing it in June. And then it'll go back to March in 2 years from now. So what's happened is some of the charter cities are deciding, you know what, we're not going to go with the county or, go with the governor's race. We're going to go ahead and do our own. So there's some actual potential cost sharing with some equipment related to this item. So, and then the other thing is voter outreach. So this is going to be the biggest expense because we need to have that voter outreach for the voters. Because it's, some people see it as complicated. It is different. And it's not required where, I think when I did some research 10 years ago, it was required by the Secretary of State. However, a lot of cities have done a lot of outreach, getting the word out. And this is once the voters decide they're going to decide they want ranked choice voting. So we would have to do mailers, brochures. Now, this amount would actually probably lessen through the years because then you're just educating the new voters or the ones coming into the city. So that to keep that in mind. So at this point, what I'm estimating based on all our information was 515K. So that's the high end, just so you know. So now if we're going to change ranked choice voting, we have to amend our charter. And then also there's a municipal code that also needs to be removed because it's a notice of runoff elections related to a 70-day notice. The charter, we would have to amend because right now we want the majority vote, which is still 50% plus one. But what's in that section is runoff elections, which is what we want to change or use ranked choice voting to do that instant runoff. So the next slide. So the opportunity for the voters to vote would be the June 2022 or November 2022. So you would need a majority vote, and once the voters decide they want to have this, then we would send it to the Secretary of State, and they would have to receive and file. I think it's certify it. And then at that point, we would be able to start ranked choice voting. So the thing is that I'm suggesting that instead of doing 2023, because this election, if you do June, the county has 28 days to announce the winner. And if the winner of the measure, and if it doesn't go through or it's close, then you would have to wait 28 days until it's certified. So that's cutting it close to trying to get a lot of the voter outreach and then also contracts and things like that. So, but the June 2022, to call that election would be March 11th. And then for November 2022, to call that election would be August 10th, 2022. Now, since the last time, I think from the budget response report, we gave a price and it has gone up due to the fact that the governor has made it mandatory to send every voter a vote by mail. So not only does the county do the vote by mail, they also do the vote centers. So it increased the rate. So now instead of, I think it was, can you go to the next, is it the next one? Oh no, okay, go back, I'm sorry. So for June 2022, it's increased 78,000. So it originally was 144,000, which is what we had at budget time, which is what we allocated. However, it's now up to 222. For the November election, it was 136, and now it's gone up 39,000. So now it's 175. So if you want to go June or November, we can go to mid-year and ask for and come to council regarding the difference in the funding. Go ahead to the next slide. The other thing that we found is that Voter Choice Act is actually, there's pending legislation to actually allocate 40 million of federal grants to support local and state governments to transition to ranked choice voting. So one of the things would be is to have council, if they're interested in this, is to either do a resolution or a letter to local and state representatives in support of this legislation. There's also other avenues that we can use to help with some of our outreach, which is fairvote.org, and then also California RCV Coalition Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center. So we have those available that we're tapping into. And so at this point, there are, just to note that there are, I think, 7 cities in California that are now doing ranked choice voting. One is the city and county of San Francisco, Alameda County, there's Eureka, and I think there's a couple other. So at this point, if you have any questions, but we would need direction regarding whether you want to do the June or November election, whether you want to do ranked choice voting March 2023 or March 2025. And then we would return to mid-year budget increase, and then whether you want to do a resolution or letter if you're for the ranked choice voting. That concludes my presentation.
Great. Thank you, Eleanor. You can stop sharing your screen now. It's, the one cost you didn't have up there was what a runoff election costs.
Exactly. So a runoff election normally, this is because it's been a while, right? So a runoff election runs between $30,000 for a district, which we're talking about one district, and citywide could be about $80,000. And of course, talking about that was, I'd have to look and see when the last runoff election. So it could be up a little, obviously maybe the district is 50,000 and, a citywide might be 120.
2013 was the last citywide one.
2013 for mayor, 2015 for District 3, and 2017 for District 1.
Well, I mean, my point is these costs are not going to go down. And if we don't do ranked choice voting, the costs are going to climb to hold, runoff elections, which, anybody's been involved in one. It's just so exhausting, not only to the candidates, but to the public and to really, it stalls things in the city. And, you find out if you're on the council like 2 weeks before the budget. It's crazy. So there's no question. And that's why I think you're going to see a lot of cities start going to ranked choice voting. It makes a lot of sense. And people encouraging us to do this for many, many years. So I'm a big fan of it, even though it is expensive to get started. I think once people get used to it, then, we're not going to have to keep doing the same outreach every time. So, but yeah, I'm all in favor. I think it's fantastic. And if we're going to do this, I don't know why we wouldn't just start in 2023. Otherwise, we're going to end up having a runoff election in 2023, likely. So anyway, see what everybody wants. Councilmember Lowenstein.
Yeah, I was going to mention that exactly what you said. It's not in there, and that's a big cost. But also remember, and it's exhausting, but also remember, people have to raise money for a runoff election. And that's tiring for the population. And then, fortunately, we fought SB 415. But if you had to have a runoff election only in a general election time, would it be elected you'd have an election in June, and then the runoff would be in November. You've got a lot of uncertainty for, 6 months or 5 months. That's a recipe for disaster. So I think, I'm with Mayor Brand completely on this. I honestly don't understand why people haven't adopted this faster. It's probably the educational part. I know Maine has done it. San Francisco's done it. New York just did it. And there was some degree of uncertainty in terms of, I think it was a Democratic primary for mayor that was in November. And they didn't know for, was it November or last year, I think. They didn't know for like several weeks because it was so complicated. But I just think it's something that we should move towards. The confusion might be only for one election, and if we do a good job educating people, there will be no confusion. So I'm all for this. I'm all for doing it March 2023 and having the election perhaps in June of 2022 next year. to do a charter change election for this. So that's my preference for this. If somebody can convince me otherwise, I'm open to hearing for it. But as a person that's run a number of races, it's crazy that the possibility that you have to do a runoff election. It's just exhausting. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Obaji.
I agree with Councilmember Lowenstein, but a couple questions. First, if somebody marks 2 circles for one candidate, meaning I choose candidate Jane Smith as my second choice, and I accidentally mark the bubble, she's going to be my third choice too. Does that invalidate my vote for her or the entire vote for that race?
It invalidates the vote. I'd have to double check, but because if you vote for, like if you voted straight across for the same person, it invalidates the ballot.
Right. So if you make any error, which this is right for error because there's so many bubbles and you've got so many to mark.
Right.
Unlike a different ballot where you would just, vote once on one, once on another, once on another, you've got to mark a bunch of bubbles. So you could have many errors, you have many opportunities to make an error on a single vote, and one error could destroy the whole vote, right?
Yeah, I'd have to check on that.
Okay, so if we could just get some clarity on that.
Okay.
It should just void out that particular, that particular priority rather than the whole thing.
Right. I see what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah, it'd be good to know the error rate because other cities have done this in counties and states. So it'd be good to know the error rate of ranked choice voting where it's already happened instead of.
And another question, I realize it's not agendized, but it certainly factors into when to put this on our ballot is, would RENA come on, our RENA housing overlay plan, general plan amendment, would that be ready to come on in June 22? And so too would the cannabis ordinance or the cannabis initiative, would that come on in June 2022? Like, is basically everything going to come on at the same time if we decide, hey, we're going to have a June 22 election for this charter amendment?
So I wouldn't know that answer. I guess it depends on when the initiative comes in and when and how. Once we receive the initiative, there's the process. It has to go to the county to verify signatures, and then comes back to council, and then we decide when that election. So if it's before March 11th, then it could be actually put into the June election.
Are we going to have a June election? Let's say that initiative advances. Would it trigger a June election anyway, so that we're going to end up having a June election, or it would just trigger to come onto the ballot the next time we have an election?
It just depends on when they turn it in.
Well, maybe can I get some direction from the city attorney? Because this is actually very important. You don't want to have an election in June.
Oh, I understand.
22 if we're not, if the council hasn't done all of its acts necessary to preempt, another ordinance that's going to deprive the city of important revenue. That's one. And we obviously want to make sure that our housing plan passes. So I'd just like some direction on the election, if we have any from the city attorney or Ms. Forbes.
Yeah, I don't know what related to the
All right.
would be.
Well, I don't know how we can make an educated decision on when to put this on the ballot. And I think you got to consider the fact that other things are going to come on the ballot with it. So,
yeah, because
how does star voting work?
So if you go to November 2022, then to do outreach for ranked choice voting, we wouldn't be able to do 2023. So that's the thing.
We would be able to do still 2023, right?
No, we wouldn't, because nominations start the second week of that, right after elections in November.
Okay, so we kind of have no choice. If we want to make sure that we stop wasting money on elections, then we're going to have to make sure that it comes in March 2023. June 2022.
Right.
All right. Okay.
Councilman, as it pertains to general plan advisory activities and bringing back necessary updates that have to go to the ballot, part of the referral you gave on the resolution is going to include some information on our time and schedule of remaining events. We can walk you through what the logical conclusion is of that, but I'm not certain exactly when I'm not even sure we have a date yet that we could project for you on that.
All right. Well, I guess I'd make a motion to direct staff to prepare for the June 2022 election, the ranked choice voting, determine that it would be effective March 2023, the return at mid-year to modify the fiscal year 21-22 budget for increased costs, and direct staff to prepare a resolution or letter or grant applications to local state representatives in support of funding for ranked choice voting.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Councilmember MD.
I like the benefits of ranked choice voting. It's been shown to have a more positive campaigning. You don't want to anger your second or third choice people. It's got lots of great positive things to it. The thing is that I'm pretty sure that part of the referral was to bring back star voting as well. And so before we jump into ranked choice voting, although I wouldn't object to it if we did, we should really look at our other option of star voting. I was discussing star voting with the people who are for it. The Portland City Council Election Subcommittee has just voted to recommend star over ranked choice voting. And they also have a YouTube video on stars, on how it works. And he's saying, and I don't know if this is true, did you say this earlier? Is our vendor Hart Intercivic? Is that who we use?
Yes.
Okay, so he was speaking to Hart's Intercivic, and they think there's a path forward for getting star certified, and the city wouldn't even have to switch vendors or do anything like that. So I think we need to have maybe another discussion, just know what our options are, unless you guys are really gung-ho about going ranked choice voting. It's just that there just might be other options that are very similar and might be more cost effective. I don't know the answer to that, if that's even true. I'm just putting it out there.
Okay. Councilmember, Horvath, but Mike Webb's got his hand up. I don't know, Mike, did you have something quick to tell everybody, or?
Well, not quick. I was here to answer Zane's questions.
Oh, okay. Let me let Christian go, and then we'll go to you, Mike, if you don't mind. Go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, I was just going to point out the same thing too, because the BRR had talked about RCV and star voting so that we could understand the difference between the two of them. And there is, if you go and kind of search on the web, right, there's reasons why individuals think star voting is better than RCV and vice versa. And it's the way that the votes are tabulated. I think in the star voting system, even though you are ranking people, it's meant to ensure that you do get into a runoff situation with the two top vote getters at the end. And so I don't know, but I would prefer that, before we pull the trigger on it, that we at least have a clear understanding about both of them, since that's what we had originally asked, and then understand what the cost implications are for either one or the other. As it goes for the putting it on the June or the November, it looks like putting it on the November is less expensive than putting it on the primary. And I think we all know that there's better turnout in a November general than there is in a primary. And I think if anytime we're doing a charter change, we would want to have better turnout from our residents. So just food for thought. And with that said, Eleanor, to your point about, I don't care if it's 2023 or 2025 personally, but if there is a way to, if the majority of the council was interested in 2023, is there a way to have that, to do the preparations in the event that a charter vote did pass in November 2022, so that way you'd be able to move, calling the elections one thing, but being able to to accommodate and switch for, a potential 2023 RCV. After that would also be a good thing to know. So those are my initial points, but I think moving to some type of system to avoid runoffs is preferable, as I've said for years.
So Eleanor, is there a way to hold the election in November and still have ranked choice voting in March 2023?
I don't know, because we're doing nominations that second week of right after elections. So if it's too close, there's no way.
So that's kind of the question, though.
Because we call the election on October.
And there's no way for her to answer that because it's dependent on when the Secretary of State office enrolls it. A charter amendment is not effective until it's enrolled by them. And so there's no way to sit here and accurately determine whether or not it will be effective in time for that election.
So it'll be rolling the dice. There's no clarity.
Right. And they're going to wait for the county to certify it, which is 28 days after November 4th.
Well, then the answer is no.
Right. That's it.
Thank you. Just no. The answer is no. Okay. What is the other voting system that they're talking about? Clerk choice.
So sorry.
Sorry. Can you explain that, please? How it differs?
So it's mostly it's best to worst, and then so there's a numeric system where it says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You go best to worst, and they count based on what I was reading. Is they count the number. So a bunch of people, they pick 5, 3. All the 5s get totaled for that candidate, and so it's based on an average, an equal average. And the thing is the reason I didn't include it in here is originally we had found out that the star voting was not certified by the county. By the Secretary of State. But I guess it doesn't have to be. The thing would be is, right now, from what I had at this point, Hart wasn't set for ranked choice voting. They have to be certified. And Dominion does ranked choice voting. So for star method, the star voting, I would have to check to see with the state and the vendors.
So we can hold an election that's not certified by the Secretary of State?
I don't know. Obviously they say you don't have to be certified, but from my point of view, I would rather have somebody certified by the state.
Okay.
That's where I'm going.
Okay, Councilmember Nairnine.
Thank you, Mayor Brad. I would rather have this done and in place for the 2023 elections because it's a smaller election. It's only districts 3, 5, and the city treasurer's office. So it's not that many. And the
city clerk.
And the city clerk, right. So it's not that big of an election compared to the 2025 election, which is a lot more residents, which means the learning curve, a smaller learning curve. We screw something up, we can re-educate people and make sure that, or we go back to we can't go back to the old system, but we're stuck with it for two sessions. But we can at least re-educate people. So fix up, maybe go back to the old, have something on the ballot to fix it. So that would be my preference, but I also see the fact that it's going to be a really tight timeline in order to move forward with the 2023s. We have to done by March. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen.
No. It's the June election. You just call it in March.
Right, but if we call it March, we have to have all the paperwork, everything done by March. That's what I'm saying. Right?
Is that doable, Eleanor? Can you do that?
Well, we're we have the ballots go out the first week of February. So, all that will have to be put in place. It's more the outreach of just, having, information going out and going to different public groups and then just really, really saturating the community with the information.
But I thought you said it's a June election.
If we do if it's on the June 2022 election.
Right, that's what I mean.
Correct.
You presented, Eleanor, that you could do that. Is that true?
Well, I was recommending 2025, but I'll just put in.
Do you want to withdraw that we could do it? Because like we're talking about it.
Well, I'm going to do a budget for June.
Well, that was part of the motion was to allocate the money in mid-year.
No. The allocation of mid-year is for the election for June. I'm talking about what the cost is going to be for ranked choice voting to do voter outreach.
Well,
that's once the voters decide they want ranked choice voting.
So that will have to be when would that expenditure occur?
That would be in June or July, or right after the election.
So what different expenditures?
So that's the next budget cycle.
That's next fiscal year. And your direction tonight would be to prepare a decision package to be brought back at mid-year for consideration of appropriation for the funds you need this fiscal year.
Just for the election for June 2020.
So we would have to make a budget amendment mid-year in February and have our paperwork and ducks in a row by everything done by March to get it onto the June election, correct?
Yes, I see what you're saying. I'm thinking of March of 23 election. You're talking about March 11th. We have to call an election.
Yes.
June 2022 to put ranked choice voting.
Yes, and in order to do that, we must have a budget amendment for this year, at mid-year, allocate money, have all the paperwork done and ready to go.
Correct.
And then we pay at whatever X dollars to the county to get it done for the June election.
Correct.
That seems like a large task at hand.
Well, that was, look, I'm just saying, she presented that she could do that.
Can you do that?
Again. Can you or can you not, Eleanor?
Can I? Well, wait a minute. We're talking
what you just described.
That's why I'm sort of getting confused. So we're talking about, we can put in June 2022, you want to do 2023, we'll figure it out.
Thank you. That's the answer, Nils.
Okay.
We're going to do whatever you want to do. That's what I can do.
Okay, because then otherwise it would not be worth putting it onto the November election. I might as well just put it onto the March election of 2023. And in that case, Brandy, the GPAC will be done by that time. GPAC's not going to be done, the housing element is not going to, but the EIR housing element is not going to be done by March, correct? In order to be voted on.
Oh, this March?
Yeah.
No,
March 2023.
Okay. March 2023, it might be tight. We're working, we have to get the EIR completed, and then, work with it that way. That would be the earliest it could go on.
Okay, so since we can't make it that one's going to be too tight. So that way it's going to have to end up on the March election, because I don't want to budget and pay for it the November election. So I'd rather have the March.
No. She said the earliest it could happen is March of 2023. Ain't going to happen.
Oh, I thought 2022. Sorry, I'm looking at my dates wrong. Okay. All right. Then, I'm not in favor of doing it in June or November. I'd rather wait until March of 2023 to put it on the agenda on the election cycle, not spend the extra money for the county and running an early election.
Okay, wait a minute. Are you talking about for
yeah, can you clarify?
2023, March of 2023.
Okay, so if you want it in March of 2023.
Hold on. What's it?
The election, the ranked choice voting choice with the charter amendment.
So we can't do it in 2023. Just to let you know.
No, have that choice on the ballot in March of 2023.
We can't.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why you're saying we can't.
Because it's a charter amendment.
I know, but section 1415 of the election code allows you to have it on not just a general primary, but also a statewide general, a statewide primary, or a regular city municipal election. There are some things you can't put on there There are things that would take away, employment status, things like this. But I don't think a charter amendment adding ranked choice voting instead of and I wasn't asked to research this, but I believe this is the case. I believe you can put it on March, this sort of thing. And to answer Zane's earlier question, we talked last week during the meeting about the agenda. It's a general municipal election. So that will likely come, but it's premature to decide that because first it's got to qualify. Then the council has to decide if it wants to vote to approve it rather than put it on the ballot. And then it goes on either the next municipal election or you can have a special election. But I do believe it can go on the March ballot. And the other problem with trying to pick June is unless there are 4 of you in favor of June, you're not going to have the money for that. And so in many ways, it's kind of premature to set the date until you have the budget amendment, unless you want to pick the, March 2023. So look at 14-15, because that's an exception. I think you're going, Eleanor, off of 9255. But 14-15 has a exception to 9255.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? No,
that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Obaji.
Zane, did I answer all your questions? I didn't hear all of them.
Just to clarify, what you're saying is the June 20, if we put this on, if we basically adopted the motion that I made and it's on, ranked choice voting is on the municipal election for June 2022.
Wait, that you just said it's on the municipal election for June 2022. There is no municipal election.
Primary election. It's
okay,
right.
Statewide primary on June.
Statewide primary, June 2022. That's all good with you, right? You're just saying you don't want to vote for that when you haven't budgeted for it and you don't have 4 votes for it.
That's the risk.
Okay, but if we vote for it now and then we don't pass the money for it, then it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not recommending, I'm not getting in all that. The November one, I don't think you should pick if the goal is to get it for 2023. Okay. So, but June 2022 is a possibility.
All right. So then the other thing I was going to say, if I might, Mr. Mayor, is just that I did look at star voting, and I do think it's worthwhile. Thank you for raising that. I am concerned about this, the fact that it's not certified. I don't know that we want to be the city that's running non-certified elections. But basically what I understand it to be based on my very cursory look at this is that you have the top 2 first vote getters and they go to a runoff. You're not carrying over anything from anybody else at that point. And then you take in the other preference, take into account the other preferences. So DeAndre here has no chance of winning the race, even if everybody who voted for Ben, everybody who voted for Carmen put DeAndre as their second choice. And I think that's the difference between star and ranked choice voting. So in any event, if anybody wants to amend my motion, go for it. I'm willing to entertain amendments, but I'm not inclined right now to change it.
Well, right now there's a motion on the floor, and I forgot who seconded it.
Should we go to public comment?
Mills.
I did.
Mills, okay. So yeah, let's go to public comment.
We have Ruben Montejano.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you everyone for giving me the opportunity to comment, and thank you, Laura and Christian, for bringing up star voting. It's unfortunate that only RCV was considered because I think star voting has a lot of potential. And like Zane said, it is like a scoring method. So all the candidates' scores are added up, and then the 2 highest scoring candidates move on to a runoff round where everyone's ballot is everyone's ballot is assigned or vote is assigned to the candidate that they preferred over the top two. One thing I like to point out that differs from RCV is that you guys were talking about a limit in your ranks to only allow 10 ranks. So that is a constraint on the paper. With star voting, you wouldn't have to do that because the ballot only has like 6 bubbles. It has 0 to 5. So you can still have, so the voter can score as many candidates as they want still without having to be limited in that sense. Similarly to RCV, there will be education and outreach costs as well as updating the vote tabulation software. But I think it's a great trade-off for having a more representative election than RCV because like RCV, with STAR, you can give candidates the same score, indicating that you support them equally. So this differs from RCV, where if someone ranks them the same, then their ballot is eliminated or removed or voided, or they only get to have that first option and their ballot doesn't get to show the rest of the preferences. So I think there should be more talk about STAR and RCV. And yeah, well, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And actually, let me just clarify that what I described about star voting was inaccurate in that case. And she just clarified, or Ruben just clarified, I should say, the actual way it works.
Yeah, so it's basically just a scoring method. So everyone scores each candidate from 0 to 5. All those scores are added up. And the 2 highest scoring candidates move on to that runoff round where everyone's ballot is assigned to the candidate that they preferred over the top 2. And if they scored them equally, then their vote would be assigned to a vote of no preference because they don't prefer either. They're equal. So that's the difference.
Right.
You from Redondo, Ruben?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
I'm from Riverside, California. So
What brings you to Redondo to comment about this?
Oh, it's a great question. I have been trying to get Redondo to talk more about star voting for a while. And I do want to do some outreach there and educate some of your populace about star voting.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is, do you work for the company? I mean, you live in Riverside and you've always thought Redondo should have star voting, so here you are.
Well, no, I didn't. Well, not just Redondo. I think all of California should have star voting. So seeing that you guys are talking about voting methods, I think it would be very good to consider other options.
Okay, well, that's rather remarkable. Someone from Riverside called to the Redondo Beach City Council to tell us to do star voting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next person I have is Garrett McMillan. Why is this? Okay. It's wanting me to promote him to a panelist. Oh, okay, so I have to promote him to a panelist because he has an older Zoom. Okay. There we go. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I'd like to just add in here that, to please consider star voting instead of ranked choice voting, as ranked choice voting continues to not deliver on its promises. While it will mitigate the need for runoff elections, as many of you have noted and desire, it will not enable voters to be more honest with their vote, nor will it solve vote splitting or reduce political polarization. Upon face value, these methods are similar. Only one election is needed. Both allow voters to show preference and both appear to be user-friendly. However, there are significant differences after closer inspection. While RCV allows voters to show preference by ranking, it does not show the magnitude of support for each candidate, nor can multiple candidates be given the same ranking. Additionally, since each round in RCV only considers the top choice of each voter, the lower preferences get ignored and may not even factor into the final decision. In this way, RCV prioritizes your favorite candidate, even to the detriment of other candidates you might like. Counterintuitively, this actually makes RCV a polarizing method since it assumes you prefer your first candidate winning, even if it means electing your least favorite candidate instead. Because of this, accuracy for representative outcomes is between 80 and 90%. Furthermore, votes can backfire in 15% or more of competitive elections with 3 or more candidates to produce unrepresentative results. For this reason, RCV has been repealed in more places than it has been adopted in its 150-year history. Star voting, on the other hand, delivers on the promises of RCV and provides a simple, honest, expressive, accurate, and equal voting method. Scoring candidates from 0 to 5 is simple and allows voters to show their level of support for each candidate in addition to preference order. This enables star voting to be 98% accurate in its representative outcomes. I'd also like to add that Mr. Abashi is concerned for 2 circles for the same candidate. In the case for star voting, you would just simply count their top level score. So if they filled in a 3 and a 4, then you would presume their score is a 4 for that candidate. And you can, with ranked choice voting, if you scored 2 candidates at 3, then your vote would be void. Whereas with star voting, 2 candidates can be the same level. So you could give them a 3 because you show no preference. Additionally, with ranked choice voting, you have the concern for exhausted ballots, where they leave candidates blank. In ranked choice voting, those...
Time.
Motion to extend.
There a second?
I'll second.
Okay, go ahead, Gary.
Okay, thank you. With those exhausted ballots, RCV assumes that you have no preference among those candidates since you did not give them any vote, which is pretty untrue for most people. Whereas star voting assumes a default of 0 score if you do not vote for them, showing that you don't have any support for that candidate. I'd also ask for Ms. Manzano to please play the video on star voting so the council members can see how star voting works, just as she did for RCV. And that way the council members can be semi-familiar with the method while choosing their path forward here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Garrett. Where are you from?
I'm in Northwest Torrance. Like everywhere I throw a rock, it says Redondo Beach. So you guys are just right next door.
Yeah, no problem. And it's helpful to know the details of it. I just want people to realize, I don't know who you work for, or the other guy works for, or why you're here, but I get it. And it's helpful to hear what you're saying, but it's just important for people to realize that,
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've reached out to Torrance council members as well as Redondo Beach. Like I said, they're all right next door. And thankfully, the council members of Redondo Beach were actually receptive and willing to hear me out.
Yeah. So, Eleanor, are we making a decision on which method we're going to use tonight, whether it's star or ranked choice?
Yes. Unless you want me to come back and give you more information on star voting.
Really wasn't presented to us, right? Other than
no, because we don't have a vendor that's certified that I know of. Again, we checked with the Secretary of State. Every vendor system has to go through the Secretary of State, has to be certified. So that was why we decided to just do ranked choice voting.
But you can have an election and it can be valid in terms of I don't even know what the terminology is, but you said earlier it doesn't have to be certified.
Well, yes, that's what, they're saying it doesn't have to be certified, but the vendor who's doing the counting, so the machines, the software has to be certified by the Secretary of State.
So
I'm just, providing you that information. I mean, again, I can come back and do a, star voting presentation.
I think what you just said is no vendor who would conduct the star voting process is certified by the Secretary of State.
That I know of.
But they could be certified by the time we have the election.
It could be. You're correct. So we have some e-comments also.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Vicki.
First comment is submitted by Mark Nelson. Ranked nonsensical outcomes, I oppose it. Second comment is submitted by Daniel Elder. Ranked choice voting leads to elected officials that more closely match who voters want to see in office. It provides a strong disincentive towards harsh rhetoric and divisive tactics common in modern elections. By using RCV, instant runoff voting also becomes possible, which eliminates even longer campaign seasons that only divide the community and create uncertainty. Next comment is submitted by Lee Caller. Please do not adopt ranked voting. While it sounds good on paper, in reality, it can get very confusing. With the current system, I decide which candidate I prefer, and if no one gets a majority, there is a runoff between the two candidates, and I can look at the differences between the two. They can debate each other and highlight the differences, and then I can decide which I prefer. In a ranked system, I have to order each candidate in advance. Even as an active participant in this city, I'm not sure I could do that. I do not even know who my second and third choice would have been for mayor in the last election. Imagine your average voter that pays little attention to city politics on a day-to-day basis doing that. The fourth commenter is by Michael Franze. Please consider star voting as a voting system for Redondo Beach. It accomplishes the goals of ranked choice voting, has more representative outcomes, and eliminates the need for costly runoff elections. STAR stands for score, then automate runoff. And that's exactly how it works. You score candidates from 0 worst up to 5 stars best. Your vote automatically goes to the finalist you prefer between the 2 highest scoring candidates. So even if your favorite can't win, it's safe to vote your conscience without worrying about wasting your vote. That concludes the comments.
Oh, no, there's one more.
Okay, just a moment. I just refreshed.
I can go ahead and read it. Eugene Solomon. The danger with star voting seems to be a candidate election despite not being a majority preference of voters. We want a candidate with 50% plus 1 to win all elections. That concludes.
Wait, who was that last one from?
Eugene Solomon.
Eugene Solomon, okay.
Okay, Councilmember Albaji.
All right, so I will say that I do believe that star voting in concept, based on what I'm reviewing, is better in that you could put 2 people who are your second choice tied as far as their score, and whoever gets the highest score, those 2 people go to an automatic runoff and somebody's selected. But with that said, if you Google, you look for news regarding cities adopting star voting, not a single, I can't find a single city that has adopted it. And that is, I'm sure that factors into why there's nobody certifying the ability to count the star voting ballot. And I'm not willing to have Redondo Beach's democracy be the test pilot for star voting. Certainly not on elected offices, maybe on some advisory vote or something like that. And it could be the case that ranked choice is the best thing available to us now, but eventually star voting proves to be more meritorious and just as reliable or more reliable, because you can't make the error that you could with the ranked choice ballot. And we're going to have to, we could vote to amend our charter and adopt star voting again. So, but I'm going to maintain my motion exactly as is for those reasons.
Okay, Councilmember Lowenstein.
Yeah, I just was wondering if maybe we should decide to have the election a certain day and then come back in a few weeks after Eleanor looks into this to present it, so we can compare apples to oranges, because apples to apples rather than apples to oranges, because, I've talked to the people from star voting, but I really am not 100% certain what is the better system. And for us to be making a potential charter change for this on a whim without looking at another option. And one of the negatives could be, hey, it's not certified, so we can't go with it. I mean, do you want to make this decision tonight alone, or do you want to just say, hey, let's have the election and then in 4 weeks, whatever, look at it as a presentation item? I would ask.
Is that a friendly amendment?
Well,
or you want to make a secondary motion?
Yeah, I guess I'll make it as a friendly amendment, and I'll see if the motioner in the second would accept it.
Can I make a suggestion? Maybe make a motion to return with the budget modification to determine if you're going to get the 4 votes. And at that time, if it passes, you will have a few weeks to look into the benefits, comparative benefits of the 2 voting choices. So
yeah, that's a good suggestion as an amendment.
All right, so I'll change my motion to be what City Attorney Webb just said, which is let's bring back the budget modification for either ranked choice or star voting, and see if we get that, and then we can decide at that time. With further information about the reliability of star voting and the ability to count the ballots accurately and protections for that, as well as an explanation of the system at that time.
And time?
It's got to be soon, right? It's got to be like by January or whenever, as soon as possible.
Eleanor, can you do that by December or early January, first week in January?
Yeah, early January.
First meeting in January? Okay. I'll second that.
Okay, well, I'll consider that a friendly amendment that was accepted. That was about that.
Yep.
All right. Any more public comment?
No more public comment.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Nierenheim.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
Aye.
Councilmember Horvath.
Aye.
Councilmember Obaji.
Aye.
And Councilmember MD.
Aye.
Do you have to read anything, Eleanor?
Nope, none on this one.
Okay, I'm gonna bail out, you guys. I'm feeling so hot. I'm gonna let Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Obaji, take over.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for hanging in. Hope you feel better.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right.
Good night. Thank you.
And 3. All right. We are moving on to, let me just adjust my screen here a second. Item N4, which is discussion and possible action regarding Los Angeles County's request for a statement of interest from nonprofit or for-profit entities to apply jointly with the county for Home Key Round 2 funding offered by the California Department of Housing and Community Development. All right, Mr. Webb, are you going to be giving us the report here?
Yeah, just briefly, and then I have Oscar Alvarado from his Vice President of Housing from Century Housing Corporation. The choice is, do we want to participate, or do we want to respond to the request for a statement of interest to potentially participate in a Project Home Key 2 regarding a hotel in South Redondo? And the reasons would be, 1, it would sort of bring our homeless efforts full circle. And 2, if we don't, it can go forward anyways, and we won't have any control whatsoever about who they place in the Project Home Key. The way I became aware of it really recently was Ronson Chu, a Redondo resident who's the senior project manager for homeless services for the South Bay Cities Council of Government, sent an email to myself, Councilman Horvath, with an introduction to Brian DeAndrea, who is a senior vice president. Century Housing Corporation is someone who's been very involved in building affordable housing. I'll let Mr. Alvarado talk about it, but they built a project that houses a lot of veterans in Long Beach, and they're currently tasked with remodeling, rebuilding the VA in Westside. I sent you a blue folder with the the information sheet on it. And the reason Ronson became connected with Mr. DeAndrea is that he was going to invite him to speak at a COG homelessness task force. And Mr. DeAndrea brought up a motel, 20-unit motel in South Redondo and PCH that was for sale. And it is, as part of Project Home Key, it's state funds, but they need a partner at a local government level. And the county has set a deadline of this Friday at noon to participate. Now, if the council decides not to, they or any other developer that gets any site can just simply apply to partner with the county and have it go forward. I talked to Ms. Forbes about the zoning for the area. It's not zoned for it, and it's not even a conditionally permitted use. But you'll see that as part of Home Key Round 2 funding, the state has not only exempted it for a limited period of time from CEQA. On page 2, there's a provision that all Home Key Round 2 projects are eligible for such streamlining and are, quote unquote, deemed consistent and in conformity with any applicable local plan, standard or requirement, and any applicable coastal plan, local or otherwise, and allowed as a permitted use within the zone in which the structure is located, and shall not be subject to a conditional use permit, discretionary permit, and any other discretionary reviews or approvals. And that's quoting from Health and Safety Code 50675.1.3 subdivision H. And that took, I just recently got that from this past Saturday from the county individual who's responsible for evaluating the statement of interest. We had a lot of back and forth with the county, a lot of research. And for our homelessness effort, it does complete that circle, as I mentioned before. We have our housing navigators. Through Homeless Court, we provide a lot of needed services to people to help them overcome the obstacles that keep them from getting housed. We have the pallet shelters, which allow a person to get stabilized, get out of survival mode in living on the streets, and be able to take advantage of all those services. And this would complete at a commensurate level. It's a relatively small project, certainly for Century Housing and I think for the county, but would ultimately have, it could end in permanent supportive housing. If we decide not to, which we certainly can, and if we don't, then there's no financial commitment. But if we don't, they can go forward, as you heard, without any approvals from us. And we wouldn't have any say in who gets put there. And the county made clear that they wouldn't consider residents as part of it. They would put anyone from SPA 8 into the area. And I think a consistent part of our approach is to try and solve our local problem, our share of the problem with homelessness, and not necessarily solve the regional one, but provide an example for other cities to try and emulate. And so the only thing we would lose by not doing it is that control. I apologize for springing it on you, but we had to, because the request for statement of interest is due Friday at noon. It will be done with minimal staff work because the developer, Mr. Alvarado, will fill out most of the paperwork, and it's non-binding. You're not committing to anything. It's not a fight. It's a competitive process. We become less competitive if we don't meet the deadline. But, and unlike applying, for example, we could apply straight with the state, with the developer, but that is too much of an economic commitment because it's a 50% developer, local government matching funds, and we would want to share. We would want the county to share the bulk of that matching funds, but certainly if we can share some of it and then have some control. And Mr. Alvarado specifically said they've worked with Harbor Interfaith in the past. And we have a good relationship with Harbor Interfaith. They manage the pallet shelter through their contract with the county. And we also, the eligibility list for our new housing navigator closed on Friday. And so I made an offer today, and it's conditional on passing a medical test. So I won't say who it is, but that person will hopefully be joining us either later next month or very early in the new year. It just depends on when it's all done. And that person, I think we can rely on a lot to make certain that the people placed in there would have a minimum of impact on the community. It's a tough choice because I imagine there'll be some, as with all things, people afraid of what this could bring, but I'll let Mr. Alvarado speak to how they manage it, all of the supportive services. And, the one thing that convinced me is it's the only way to have any sort of control over who is put there. Mr. Alvarado?
City Attorney, I'm sorry, Mr. Alvarado, for 1 second. I just wanted to mention, because the mayor asked me to mention it again, it's almost 9:00 and Granicus is doing some emergency maintenance. So I just wanted to let the public know. So if you're having any issues, then please sign up for Zoom, which you can go to redondo.org/RBTV, or you can also, there's a direct link right to the Zoom, and there's also a direct link to YouTube. Thank you, just for that announcement.
Thank you very much. Can folks hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks. Again, my name is Oscar Alvarado, and I'm Vice President of Housing Development here at Century Housing. We're a nonprofit 501c3 organization based in Culver City. We're a developer and operator of affordable housing. We're also a community development financial institution, and in that capacity, we make loans to other developers of affordable housing across the state. So we do a lot of different types of work in the affordable housing space. As a developer, we're focused primarily on our most vulnerable populations, including the homeless, the disabled, and we have a very large emphasis on housing veterans. Like Mr. Webb mentioned, we are one of 3 developers that partnered together and were selected by the VA to redevelop at the West LA VA up to 1,600 apartments for homeless veterans and veterans at risk of homelessness. So we're currently working on that effort. We have a large presence across Southern California with a large concentration of our housing being in Long Beach. We have somewhere close to 1,000 apartments that we own in Long Beach. A lot of that is concentrated at our Villages at Cabrillo community in West Long Beach, where we house over 1,500 people in temporary and permanent homes. We are an integrated housing developer. And what I mean by that is we do everything in-house and we staff everything in-house. We're a developer. We're also a property manager with a full property management arm. We're also a resident service provider. So we have resident services staff. So for this opportunity site on Pacific Coast Highway, we would provide all of those services with our in-house staff, and we would look for support from other agencies. Harbor Interfaith was mentioned. We have a longstanding relationship with them, and we know they're already doing work in the city. They're their lead provider in Spot 8, so it would make a lot of sense to work with them, and we think that they can help with resident selection and also with providing any gaps in services that we may find. I think it's important to say that it's very atypical for us to this program, this Home Key program is atypical in the sense that it does provide for no need necessarily for discretionary approvals at the city level. I think the nature of our work is to be very collaborative. We're very used to coming to cities and working with cities on all of our developments, talking to bodies like this, and of course to the community. This is something different in the sense that it allows us to apply through the county directly for these funds and create the supportive housing out of this motel. But we are very interested in working with the city, and we believe that the long-term success of a project like this would be dependent on our collaboration with the city. So we really are hopeful that we could work with you all. I've heard Mr. Webb's description of sort of the internal continuum of care that the city is working on with the staffing that you all have and with the pallet shelter. You know, we do think that having a home key site within the city would be kind of a great bookend to those efforts. And this opportunity in particular, it's fairly small relative to other home key sites, but probably a good size and fit for the community as well for that reason. I will say that regarding the purchase of the site, you know, this process is happening very quickly with the county and the state, and we don't yet have site control for the project. We've made an offer through a letter of interest. We've gone back and forth with the seller and their broker over the course of the last week or so, and we've agreed on major terms. And we would be hopeful that we could sign an LOI with them by the end of the week and then move forward to a purchase and sale agreement. We would really love the opportunity to pursue this project and to work collaboratively with the city to provide housing specifically for folks in Long Beach in Redondo. And you know, we think that one of the big keys to that will be partnering with the city, your internal staff, and also partnering with folks like Harbor Interfaith who can help with that resident selection and help us really identify the folks locally that are in need.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Alvarado. Thank you for the great work that your organization is doing. Providing housing to the veterans, especially around Veterans Day, to the thousands that are homeless around the West LA VA is no small task. I go to that area often. And thank you for your interest in providing housing here in Redondo Beach. I'll just give you all my take on this, especially after conversing with our incoming city manager, is that currently I'm sure this motel is not exactly attracting it's not providing the tourism that we just heard from the Tourism Bureau that is really fueling income to the city per se. And I'm sure it could be housing, under the counter drugs and the like. In any event, this is an opportunity to provide additional homeless services and resources here in the city where we do need that ability, because I am not hearing statistics about continued placement of people from the temporary housing shelter into permanent housing. In the first few months, we heard like 19, and I think now it's like at 21, but it's really stagnated. I don't know why, and we haven't really got an update, but I should be contacting Sherry Weaver to find out a little more, but it seems like maybe the county is running out of space to put folks, and that's why they're doing this, like permanently housed folks. Why they're providing funding and the state's providing funding to expand housing. So it seems like this is, and on the flip side, I don't see an increased problem, at least in District 4, with homeless wandering around or loitering. And I think that's because they're finding resources, they're getting into the system and the like. So I don't think that's magical, but that's a product of the resources that we've been designating to this. So I guess my question to you, Mr. Alvarado, is what kind of partnership and what kind of resources commitment are you looking for from the city to partner up in this?
Well, we're not asking the city to provide any funding for the project. I think that's probably most important to say. I think what we want is a collaborative relationship with the city and to be able to work with you all and the resources that you may have internally, including your staffing with the housing navigators, to help us all sort of get to the same goal of housing folks who are experiencing homelessness in Redondo.
Okay. Yeah, and I should add, the requirement for a financial input may come from the county, and just similar to how they requested that they would pay for most of the ongoing operations of the pallet shelter, that we would pay for part of them. We tried to get as much information as we could. We spoke with the woman who's scoring it, and so she couldn't be more forthcoming. because she's scoring the system. So that's why we'd start the process with the statement of interest if you so authorize us to do so, and we'll get more information as we go along. I think it's next March, if I'm not mistaken, when the grants are awarded and then the contracts are entered into. So we've got a bit of time. This is just the very start of the process.
All right, awesome. And what I'll just remind folks is that in our budget, we allocated significant funding, thanks to City Attorney Webb, to our homeless effort. And so that makes us probably a really good partner for this, especially since it's in our municipality. So Councilmember Narenheim, it's your district. What say you?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Hello, Oscar. How you doing?
Hello, good. Thank you.
Good to meet you. So I worked Project Room Key actually for 30-something days, 12 hours a day. I worked the Hotel Sunrise and San Pedro.
Okay.
So I worked with, our service provider was Salvation Army. They did a fantastic job. We had groups, we had individuals that worked in the family center and down in South Central, and then some other Venice and some other locations. So they knew what they were doing. They ran a tight ship. Security was great. The police and fire didn't even know that we were there. In fact, when the paramedics showed up, they asked, I said, what is this place? I thought it was a hotel. Actually, it's not. And we had very minimal calls because we handle everything on site. So we had 110 rooms that were there. Mm-hmm. And when I left, we had all 110 rooms filled. So we had probably 115, 120 people there. So you can imagine only generating 1 or 2 service calls for service week is a pretty good number. Knowing that those individuals were creating a lot more service calls on the streets from where they were at. So part of that is I noticed right away communities that fought having this, and they sued and they lost handedly, and then the project just came. So there's the first way of, like we talked about. The second way is working with the city and being good partners. And the third way is saying nothing and doing nothing. And to that point, I actually have a story. I'll just a quick story about, I know someone who lived in Koreatown in an apartment, and they moved in. A few weeks later, one of these home key sites showed up to a hotel next door, and instantaneously overnight, it was probably around 80, 90 rooms, was not a good partner. And instantly overnight, the police, as well as everything else one could imagine, went up dramatically. And I know who the service provider was. It was not you guys. So I had seen all 3 ways around it. And my question to you is, you guys are pretty far along in the process. What's the likelihood that you'll win this bid? Do you know? Pretty good, 75, 80, 90, completely unknown, 50%, 25.
You know, a lot of it will depend on the volume of interest that the county sees. There is a lot of money that's coming to Los Angeles County. I think it's something in the order of $360 million for home key when you add up the different buckets that will end up in LA County. And I think it will depend. The county does have to go through its own sort and priority for what they want to support. And I think that's one reason why we want to get in there by this Friday deadline, because we want to be in that first cohort of projects. But it's really hard. It's really hard to say. I think right now we feel good about our chances with the county. We are focused on making sure that we can strike our deal with the seller and get the site under our control.
Are there others that you know of bidding on this in the same group as you?
On this particular site, no.
Okay. And I'm on your website here, century.org. I'm assuming that's correct.
Yes, we have century.org and we have centuryaffordable.org, which is more our development focused website, but yes.
Century Affordable. Okay. Because I'm going to have to just, not that I don't believe you, but I like to research things. And I'm going to have to take a lot of stuff on your word. You guys have San Pedro.
Yep. We are also partnering with two other developers. We were selected by the Housing Authority of the City of LA, along with two other developers, to redevelop the Rancho San Pedro public housing site there.
Yep.
Which is like a 21 acre community that currently houses 476 families. Yep. And so we are in the entitlements process there, but we will be redeveloping that site out with the Housing Authority over the next many years.
So you are the partners on that project?
Correct.
The projects in Pedro. Yep, I know those. I know that place well. You're right next door to Sunrise.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. That's impressive. Actually, that's a large project, and that's going to be a mixed use project, right down in downtown revitalization. I know exactly where that's at. So that means you guys should know what you're doing. So that's good. This is my district. Like one of my Mayor Pro Tem said. I'm more than happy to work with you. I want to work with you. We have a lot of people on the streets here. I think it would be smart for us to work with you guys. We don't have any money to really give you guys. We're spending over $500,000 a year in direct service costs right now with our pallet shelter. And then many other costs that are hidden costs that we're not calculating in that. So we're doing a lot. So I know the hotel that you're at. It's a 2.6 star hotel, I want to say. There's photos of it online. 3.6 star, 2-star hotel. Yeah, they just painted it recently. So yeah, it was briefly mentioned on the slide earlier. But yeah, I'm more than happy to work with you. I think you're going to be a good partner, and I'd like to have a good partner. I don't want to see it go to someone who I can't trust. You haven't given me an idea why I can't trust you or your group. So if you're doing the one in Pedro, I'm very well aware of. That's a large project. I'll vote to support this.
So you want to make a motion, Councilmember?
I will make a motion to what do you need from us?
Authorizing us to jointly submit the statement of interest to the county by the deadline this Friday at noon.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to submit a letter of intent to support this project and make sure that this letter goes in by Friday at noon. And anything else staff needs to partner with Century Affordable.
Second.
All right, and you mean a statement of interest, right?
Statement of interest, sorry, thank you.
All right, perfect.
Mayor Pro Tem, we have a public that would like to speak.
Sure, let's hear from the public.
Ronson Chu. There you go.
Hi, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. This is Ronson Chu. I'm going to speak as a constituent. I live in Redondo Beach. I have 2 kids that go to Bernie Elementary School. And I just want to say first, thank you everyone on your continued leadership on this homelessness issue. It's a tough issue, but we can be proud that Redondo Beach is a leader on it, starting with the homeless court and Mike Webb, what he's done there. We were seeing other cities follow his footsteps. The pallet shelter, we led on that as well. And Torrance is now building theirs. And so this Project Home Key will be the first one in the Beach Cities area, including Torrance and surrounding areas. And so this is another chance for us to take leadership role on this very important issue. And hopefully other cities will follow along. Just really quickly, Councilmember Obagi mentioned about permanent housing or about the stagnation at the shelter. I can't really speak to that specifically. I think Sherry would probably be the best person to speak to that. But permanent housing is still the issue. The only public housing program we have federally or in the country is Section 8 vouchers. And we know some landlords are not very friendly to Section 8. So that, just having the housing stock is one of the biggest issues. And so this project, even though it's a small project, only 20 units, it would open up some space. And the notion that it's permanent supportive housing, it's a little bit misleading. And Oscar could maybe speak to this, but people do graduate from permanent supportive housing. So you're not going to see like a stagnant population there. People do graduate into market rate housing. They get jobs and then they move on with their lives. So there will be throughput through this facilities, at least based on historical evidence that we've seen. So yeah, and then just one quick thing, speaking as the senior project manager of the South Bay COG, Century Housing, they're a great organization. They were started actually very interestingly through the construction of the 105 freeway. A lot of people were displaced from the 105 freeway, and Century Housing got their start by placing folks from that displacement into housing. So they're a great organization. And they also fund other affordable housing developers in the area. So very reputable people. And that's why I asked them to speak at the South Bay Coalition.
Thank you, Ronson. Thank you for your hard work at the South Bay COG.
Okay, that concludes our public comments.
I have a quick question. I don't see any hands up. Rob, you mind?
No, go for it.
How many people or units do you expect, Oscar? So both. How many units are there? How many people do you expect to house?
So there are 20 rooms in the motel. So it would be 20 people, one person per room. And then there is also a 2-bedroom apartment there, which we expect would house the resident manager.
Okay. So 20 people plus, okay, the on-site person. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the duration of time to graduate from approximate, if you can give an average or a range, how long does it take to graduate from, temporary permanent housing? What is it called? Permanent housing?
Permanent supportive housing. Yeah, it's very much an individual thing, and people who are homeless come with their own individual journeys, right? Some folks will be fairly ready when they come in for services like, to help them get back into the workforce. And that's the type of work that our services folks could do. That's the type of work that partners like Harbor Interfaith could do. So for some people that happens, relatively quickly, would be like within a year, it's for some people it may take longer, and it all sort of depends on the individual. But we're always working with folks to try to get them to improve their lives and improve their economic condition and economic standing. So there's very much of an emphasis on that for folks who live in these communities.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Horvath, you had your hand up before, but you took it down. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I just I would second what Ronson had said. I think, and this is just anecdotal, but we've been trying to get our surrounding cities to do more, and they are really starting to see what we're doing here, and they are showing interest and starting to do more. And so I think there is something to be said about having taken a leadership role as a city here, because we're showing, to the point that Mayor Pro Tem Obaji made earlier, that some of the fears are unfounded and that the situation is amenable to actually solving problems and making strategies work. That's all.
Yeah, and I'll say, just on that note, it was my birthday on Sunday, and I went to Encino, and I went then to Beverly Hills through the valley. And I'll tell you, on that drive, it is much better in Redondo Beach than it is anywhere else. And it's because of the work that we're doing, and no small thanks to Mr. Webb for his leadership initiating a lot of it, and our investment in our homeless resources is paying off for the city. We're not arresting our way out of the problem. All right, time for a roll call vote. If nobody else has anything else they want to add, no e-comments, Madam Clerk?
No e-comments, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Nierenheim.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
Aye.
Councilmember Horvath.
Aye.
Councilmember MD.
Aye.
And myself is an aye. So that's 5-0.
We'll get it taken care of, and thank you all for your continued support in trying to solve this issue.
All right, and now I see our incoming city manager. So are we on city manager items? All right, let's see. City item O, city manager items. What do you got for us, Mr. Rosansky?
Yes, thank you, Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem. I have 2 items tonight. The first one, Public Works has asked me to relay to all of you. We received word that West Basin is again offering their free rain barrel program to residents. We'll have materials on that on our website. Also, the West Basin website provides access to that information. There's a submission date by January 20, I believe. They do have a limited number, so if our residents are interested in that program, it was fairly popular the last go round. Please spread that word. And then secondarily, I'm sure all of you have seen the news. The federal government did finally pass an infrastructure bill. Depending on the way you calculate it, it tallies anywhere from $1 trillion to $1.2 trillion over the life of the bill. There are a lot of funds dedicated to roadway improvements. There's money for sea level rise buffering. There's quite a broadband is a big part of it. So transit, of course. So we'll be working with our local agencies who will likely receive some of those allocations to see if there's anything that we could leverage in that bill. But wanted you to be aware that that's out there, and we are working on identifying possible sources for us. And that's all I have tonight.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to mayor and council items, item P. P1, seems like we've got a discussion possible action to approve a proclamation supporting LA versus Hate United Against Hate Week activities in Los Angeles County from November 14 to 20, 2021. Do we have, I thought I saw Jerome Chang here. All right, is anybody presenting on this, or is it Mr. Chang?
No, this is a referral from last week. Horvath and voted unanimously to bring back today. We put together the template resolution from the toolkit that was provided in those materials. Really your matter for consideration this evening.
All right, let's see that here. Let's broadcast this so the folks at home can see it. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this issue? Councilmember Horvath.
No, I was just going to make a motion to support and go to Jerome because he's organizing an event around this in the coming week.
Will do.
I'll second it.
All right. Motion by Councilmember Horvath, second by Councilmember Lowenstein. We have members of the public to speak, Madam Clerk.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, there we go.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Jerome Chang, and I'm a resident of about 11 years now in North Redondo, District 5. Yes, as you mentioned, I do hope that you approve the proclamation that you've drafted up. Wanted to let everyone in the public know that this Sunday, November 14th, from 10 a.m. to noon at Perry Park on the Slauson Lane side, that's the west side, in Redondo Beach, this city will participate in an LA versus Hate United Against Hate Week, which is next week, with a community chalk art event for kids. And it's organized by me and Tanya McKenzie, who is a fellow Redondo Beach resident and a commissioner on the Human Relations Committee that oversees this LA versus Hate. There was a group of us who were enlisted by the county, and 2 of us, Tanya and I, are leading the Redondo effort, and others are leading Hermosa and Manhattan Beach, but the 3 beach cities are coordinating the same event at the same time, the same day, but at our respective city locations. So the Hermosa Beach will be at Schumacher Plaza at the end of the Hermosa Pier, and Manhattan Beach will be at Polywog, right where the middle school is. We coordinated the same chalk art event so that it's simple and across all the beach cities. We're even buying the supplies together. So I just hope that everyone has a chance to be able to come join us this Sunday, whether it's for 10 minutes or for all 2 hours. For those who do show up, we will be giving away coloring books to everyone. We will have a couple hundred on hand. I know everyone wants to color. I think sometimes some adults find it therapeutic to color while they're in meetings such as this. Anyways, there's just an announcement. That's all. And I thank you for supporting all causes that are against hate of everyone, not just for Asians or Latinos, but for everyone.
Thank you, Jerome. Thanks for your work on this. Thanks for your leadership. That's exactly what we need. And to let the folks who are not aligned with us against hate and those who want to separate us know that we are, the majority of us, the vast majority of us here in Redondo Beach are tolerant and appreciate diversity. All right, any other public comments, Madam Clerk?
No, we have one comment, but it's from Jerome Chang. So since he spoke, we won't be comment, but it will be on the record.
Well, thank you for speaking here live. It's actually much better to hear your voice than to hear something read. So thanks. All right, let's take a roll call vote. Councilmember Nierenheim.
Councilmember Horvath had his hand up.
I think it's still up.
Oh, okay. Aye.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
Aye.
Councilmember Horvath.
Aye.
Councilmember MD.
Aye.
All right, myself, aye. That's 5, passes 5-0. Got to read anything, Madam Clerk?
Nope.
All right. And back to the agenda. Are we on mayor and council referrals?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, item Q. Councilmember Nierenheim, have any referrals, staff?
I do, Mr. Wazansky. So I was watching the Harbor meeting last night. They were talking about sea level rise and possible funding. I take it you guys are going to come back with a report over the federal funds, what's available to us, not available to us. You'll be sending us around departments. Do we need to make a motion for that? Have it come back? Have it go to each individual commission? I just want to just reaffirm the money is being looked at.
Yeah, we are looking at, in particular, looking for sea level rise mitigation funding. We are really in a sort of a secondary queue with the Army Corps of Engineers for a couple of different projects. We've been in communication with them. I think they'll benefit from this recent bill. Hopefully that will help them get rid of some of their backlog. I'm not sure it's going to do anything immediately for us, but it might help us get into the queue for subsequent years. But we'll continue to scour that and certainly can bring that kind of conversation back as part of mid-year. It's a work effort that we need to fund. Sea level rise plan mitigation is going to be a big part of the waterfront strategy here for several years. So,
okay. And Brandy, I don't know if you're still there, but there's been some talk. I think you talked to Mayor Brand regarding SB 9 and ability for us to do a couple of things to insert some language or ordinances, policies, something in place before SB 9 is in place or somebody shows up with an SB 9 compliant project. What is the status with that?
Yeah, that was discussed at last week's meeting during the referrals to staff. I'm not sure if there was an official referral,
okay.
But it is something that I'm coordinating with the city attorney's office. I think we'll put something on for next week if we need to get any direction on what items to include in that. But I'll be working with the city attorney on that.
And just to follow up with that, Councilman, Brandy and I had this conversation yesterday. I think next week's item may not be specific on all fronts, but we want it to be a conversation starter and make sure we sort of issue spot as it pertains to our ability to make changes in the ordinance that might pertain to curbing some of the SB 9 changes. So we'll get you something for next week. It may not be in depth, but it'll certainly get us going in conversing on the subject.
Okay, perfect. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Councilmember Lowenstein.
Thanks. I was actually going to bring that up, Mike, what you brought up with the infrastructure bill. I'm wondering if maybe we can get a report from David Turch. He's our federal
In fact, I was referencing, in fact, we did receive an email summary from him. I will forward that to all of you. It's very high level. I don't think it gets us the detail we really need to know how much of this will trickle through, but I'll forward that to all of you as an information item.
I would hope that it would be a little bit more than high level since we're paying.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The problem is he's really at this point synthesizing the bill at the pots of funding level. Really what will end up happening is each of those pots will have rules written based on the departments of administration. And then that's really where the details are flushed out. That's where the rubber meets the road. So.
Okay, well, roads, I don't know if dredging would be a part of this. That would be interesting. Maybe, but also protected bike lanes are going to be part of this. So safer roads. So I guess we'll find out all these details. So
yeah, that'll probably fuel the state's ATP program. That I think a lot of the programs we have in California are going to just see additional tranches of funding to support them. So I think a lot of what we're doing, I think we're in the pipeline and able to take advantage of. Things specific in the waterfront are a little trickier. We've got to work with the Army Corps. Dredging may be viewed as kind of a navigational issue. I'm not sure it'll meet the sort of hazard mitigation, sea level rise prioritization, but we'll look for everything we can.
Okay, great. Thanks. I was wondering if we get a status of the new playground that we're going to be implementing at Dominguez. I don't know where that's at.
Yeah, we can do that if you'd like. We can bring a status report back. We are working on the civil side of it, and then we need to begin the design elements for the play structures themselves. You've probably seen we've lost much of our equipment on the top side of the park due to disrepair. And what I've heard from Ted is that we don't or having trouble gaining any access to replacement parts. So that may be out of commission for a while. So that's added a little more urgency to the project. If you'd like a formal status report, we can bring it back to you. If you're comfortable with us just kind of educating you offline, I can do that too. So
I'm comfortable with the latter. That's fine.
Okay.
And the last thing I'd like to bring up is as long as we have a discussion on dog park improvements, say by the third week in January or the first week in February. Is that enough time to do that?
Sure.
We have money budgeted towards it.
Yeah.
I'd rather not wait the entire year to start this process.
Absolutely. We're working on that. In fact, we can bring you a status report back. I can fill you in on the status of that too, as part of the Dominguez play equipment conversation. We are working. We can do a status in February if you'd like, or make that part of the mid-year presentation too. That's another way to do it.
Well, I'd actually like a discussion on this because not just a status, because that dog park needs tons of work. This shouldn't just be, hey, what's the status? We need to have a discussion on options.
So you're really talking about discussion on the scope of work in the project, more the specific details of it. Yeah, we can do that.
Or suggestions where we come up with a plan going forward, because I don't want this to be, we're fixing some benches and stuff like that. So
gotcha.
Anyway, yeah. I was hoping we could do that by the end of January, beginning of February, if that's possible.
We can do that.
Schedule.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay. Do we need a vote for that, or is that just something that we can talk about?
If it's a formal referral, it'd probably be good to have a roll call on it just to make sure it's on the queue.
Roll call. What's the referral, Councilmember Lewis?
Referral would be a status report as well as options for improving the dog park in terms of bringing new features in and things like that.
And really, I think if I could, it's really to specify what you want to see in the capital project, because as you pointed out, we have money. We actually had a capital project. You all supplemented it even more so with your final budget motion. So it's really laying out what is the planned scope for that CIP. And I think that's the conversation you want to have.
All right. So roll call vote on that. Councilmember Narenheim.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowenstein.
Aye.
Councilmember Horvath.
Aye.
Councilmember MD.
Aye.
Yeah, and if you were at the Riviera Halloween thing, you'd realize that there is as many dogs here as there are humans. So that's an aye for me too, 5-0.
That's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Horvath.
No, thank you.
Councilmember MD.
No, I was just going to also bring up the federal funding and that to repave the roads, to increase our road repaving schedule. That was it. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, I've got a couple items more kind of like we at some point asked for a charter reform committee to come together to analyze changes to the charter, and we never actually got that back. So now I'm seeing that if we ever were to have any sort of charter reform committee, they're going to have to act and come back with recommendations fairly quickly for it to have a chance to come along with the other stuff. So can we get a discussion on that agendized, for next week, just whether or not to have a charter reform committee and see if that passes?
What? Well, that seems a little bit fast. We want to do the first week in December. Mr. Rosansky, what is it? What's the agenda like next week?
It's come together. I mean, every meeting here on out for the rest of the calendar year is going to be pretty busy, unless something ends up having a push for delay. But next week should be busy. First meeting in December will be busy. I think it's really a matter of, are we just teeing up to form or not to form a charter committee? Or are we teeing up process options? I mean, this is...
Yeah, no, I'm thinking just to form or not to form, because a discussion about actual charter changes among this council could take hours and hours, like as long as, it could be a 3 meeting thing. So to form or not to form a subcommittee is kind of my idea here.
And if that is to just initiate then a process for us to come back with whatever that documentation would be needed to implement such a thing, we could probably tee that very basic question up by title only for next Tuesday. And then effectively you would then direct us to come back with that later.
Well, okay, let's not do it that quickly then. When's the soonest that you can substantively come up with a discussion of what a specially organized committee would look like to come up with those kind of recommendations?
I think I'm going to need to turn to Mike and Eleanor a little bit on this. I can't.
So I want you to think of the GPAC, not think of meeting recommendations by June. So what we can do is, I worked here. I was not city attorney when the last time we had a charter review committee on it, and we can literally dig through the files and try and find how it was set up. But it's a longer process. It's like a GPAC process, rather than, okay, we got to hurry because we're going to have results by June. So,
all right, well, let's remove the time constraint, but let's get it going, because we have talked about it and it has not, and I think we even might have voted on it, and it has not.
Yeah, you did vote on it. We weren't part of it. I'll work with Mike now.
We can vote on it again though. So if there's
you don't need to. I think what I'll do is I'll work with Mike to try and figure out how much of the record we have of how it was set up in the past and bring it to you all. Determine, much of it is the structure of it, but we can do that, and I'll just leave it up to Mike to figure out when the appropriate date is.
Cool. And then in light of our discussion earlier, I think we're going to need to accelerate our cannabis ordinance that we were discussing, and we sent to I think 3 committees. I think we're going to need to bring that back to us in a manner that gets it before us for discussion well before that June election. June 2020.
Brandy is working on preparing a draft as an outgrowth of the working group's efforts, and then that draft will be from a policy standpoint. We'll put our recommendations in there. We'll get it over the attorney's office for consideration review through our normal Weboplex process, and then we'll get that to you here hopefully in the next couple of months. I mean,
it's got to get to the planning commission per the city. So as soon as we have that drafted, working with the city attorney's office, it's just, we're
although it does, I will say, Brandy, that does pose an interesting question, and I'm not sure we can get this answer tonight, but we may want to have the council weigh in on some of the parameters in the ordinance more.
Well, just without going into the specifics, I think the previous referral was in the first couple of months of January. Are you saying we have to speed that up? It can happen, but other stuff will have to drop off.
I guess agendize a discussion about the timing of when it's going to come back and what's going to come back to us. How about that?
Yeah, that would be appropriate. That as soon as Brandy's finished the policy stuff, before it's sent to us, we can go to you and you can opine on it, and then we can turn it into an ordinance that goes to the Planning Commission.
Yeah, that candidly would be, I think, my preference, that you get in on the policy parameters before we get too deep into drafting. But get you a semblance of a prepared ordinance that you can react to, and that's really what we're working on right now.
All right. Anybody have an objection to that?
No. And what's the time frame as to about when you're going to come back to us?
I suspect we'll have a high-level draft ordinance with kind of a laid out parameters in early January.
Okay. Is that going to include a map?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely good maps.
And the last thing I'll do for tonight, which is actual referral that we'll take a vote on if somebody seconds it, is whether we should have, I'd like a discussion to be agendized on whether we should have, as part of our district council pages on the city website, whether we should have the ability to also put updates there relative to our district. And I can get into, if it gets agendized, I can get into the reason why I would like that. But basically a way for council members to communicate via their council district relative to important council district page relative to important updates that are apolitical in nature to their constituents. And a central place where constituents can look and say, hey, here are the updates I missed because I didn't get the email blast.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. That's a good idea.
All right.
And maybe also add on bios of each.
That's not a huge rush. I mean, it's important, but it's not a huge rush. So don't. Right.
So would we be okay, unless I see a break or an opening in the meetings in the next the next 5-6 weeks here through the end of the calendar year? You okay to allow that to trail into January if things are tight?
Yeah, January, February is fine.
I can slot that in if something breaks open, but.
All right, let's take a vote on that. Councilmember Ehrenheim?
Aye.
Councilmember Lowenstein?
Aye.
Councilmember Horvath?
Aye.
Councilmember Emdy?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye, 5-0. Perfect. All right, that's it. I don't need to add on anything else. We'll save it for the rest. Thank you, guys. All right, let me check the agenda if there's anything else. All right, is there a motion to adjourn? We got through everybody, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any objections? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for all the great council meeting. 5-0 votes, I think, on everything.